Every spring you walk past that rack, $4 a packet, sometimes $5. And what you get for it is 30 seeds in a paper envelope. While last August one bean plant on your balcony made more seed than that envelope held, and you boiled it and ate it without thinking twice. Here is the problem with almost every seed-saving guide you will ever find. It was written for somebody with an acre, half a mile of isolation, 200 plants, a root cellar. All of it correct, and all of it useless to you because you have 8 containers and a railing. So this list ranks 15 everyday crops by one question and one question only. What is a single envelope of this seed actually worth to a person with a small growing space? 4 of them are not worth saving at all on a space that size. And rather than bury that at the end, I am going to put those 4 first and say so out loud. The crop at number 1 is something you ate this week. It wins for a reason that sounds too simple until you sit with it. The food and the seed are the same object. You do not process it. You just stop eating some of it. Drop your container count in the comments and which way they face. It changes half the advice on this list. Number 15, onion. Start at the bottom, because the bottom is where people waste the most time. Onion is the crop that punishes you twice. It punishes you in the growing, and then it punishes you in the jar. Here is the growing part. Onion is a biennial. That means the plant you harvest this year does not make seed this year. It makes a bulb, and the bulb has to survive a cold winter before it will ever throw up a flower stalk. Seed Savers Exchange states the requirement plainly. Biennial crops do not flower in their first growing season. They must first experience cold weather, and then they flower, set seed, and die in their second season. So you plant an onion. You do not eat the onion. You store the onion through winter. You replant the onion in spring. And somewhere in the middle of your second summer, you finally get seed. 2 seasons. 1 container occupied the whole time. Now the jar part, which is worse. Onion seed is dead in about a year. Illinois Extension puts it at 1 year. Seed Savers is slightly more generous at 2. Either way, it is the shortest-lived seed of any common vegetable, sitting down there with parsnip and parsley. So you spent 2 growing seasons in 1 container to produce a seed that expires before your next seed order arrives. And there is a third thing. Onion is insect-pollinated and outcrossing. And Seed Savers puts the population you need for genetic maintenance at 200 plants, 200 onions, on a balcony where 8 containers is a full house. I want to be careful here because there is a version of this that works. If you already grow onions in the ground, if you have a cold garage to store bulbs, if you have room for a dozen plants and you are willing to lose the varieties slowly, saving onion seed is a real hobby with real rewards. But that is not what this video is measuring. Measured as an envelope of seed on a small balcony, onion is the worst value on this entire list. Buy your onion seed. Buy it fresh every single year because last year's is probably already gone. And use the container for something that pays you back. Number 14, carrot. Carrot has the same biennial problem as onion. Grow it, do not eat it. Chill it for 10 to 12 weeks around 50 degrees. Replant it. Wait. Seed Savers is specific about the storage option too. Lift the roots and layer them in ventilated containers with wood shavings or sand. That is not a balcony operation. That is a basement operation. But carrot has a second problem that is stranger and more interesting than anything about onion. And it is the reason carrot sits at 14 instead of 15. It has a story worth knowing even if you never save a carrot seed in your life. Look at the roadside on your way to work. That lacy white flower, the one everybody calls Queen Anne's lace, that is not a relative of your carrot. It is your carrot. Same species, Daucus carota. The Seed Savers chart lists it in plain language under carrot, crosses with Queen Anne's lace. The garden carrot and the ditchweed are one plant that went in 2 directions, and they will happily cross back together the moment your carrot flowers within range of the ditch. And wild carrot is naturalized across most of the United States. It is a listed noxious weed in several states, which means that unless you live somewhere it does not grow, your carrot seed is going to have some ditch in it. Not the first year necessarily, but over a few generations that beautiful orange root gets whiter, then woodier, then a forkier at the tip, until one autumn you pull one out of the container and find yourself holding something closer to a pale, splintery parsnip that has clearly stopped taking your instructions. The isolation numbers tell the same story. Seed Savers says 1,600 feet. UC's advice is 1,000 feet, or simply grow one variety per season. 1,600 feet is roughly 3 city blocks. You do not have 3 city blocks. Nobody watching this has 3 city blocks. There is one honest exception. If you want a landrace, a carrot population adapted to exactly your conditions, no longer any named variety, just yours, then all of this crossing is a feature rather than a bug, and you should absolutely do it. That is a genuinely satisfying long project. It is just not the same thing as saving seed. Number 13, sweet corn. Before this one, the rule that saves more people from panic than anything else in seed saving. Cross-pollination does not ruin the fruit you are eating right now. NC State Extension puts it flatly. Cross-pollination has no effect on the quality of the harvestable fruit. If your zucchini crossed with somebody's acorn squash, this year's zucchini is still a zucchini. It is next year's seedling that turns strange. Corn is the one exception on the entire list. Corn is the only crop where that rule is not true. NC State Extension is direct about it. The quality of your sweet corn harvest is affected if it crosses with other varieties and types of corn. If field corn or popcorn pollinates your sweet corn, the kernels on the ear you picked this August come out tougher and less sweet. Not next year, this year. The effect is called zinnia, and it happens because in corn, the pollen contributes genes directly to the part you actually put in your mouth, the endosperm, which is the starchy body of the kernel itself, rather than a wrapper built around it by the mother plant. Everywhere else in the garden, the fruit is built entirely by the mother plant, so foreign pollen changes nothing you can taste. In corn, the pollen is in your dinner. Now stack the seed-saving problems on top of that. Corn is wind-pollinated. Seed Savers notes corn pollen travels a quarter mile or more, which makes isolation a fantasy in any suburb. Corn suffers from severe inbreeding depression, and the University of Illinois research literature is blunt about it. Inbreeding corn results in a loss of vigor, and inbred plants are not as vigorous or high-yielding. So the population you need is 200 plants, the highest number on the whole Seed Savers chart. And it is not a suggestion. It is the difference between corn and a sad little stunted thing 4 years from now. And the seed is short-lived anyway, 2 years by both Illinois Extension and UC. 200 corn plants on a balcony, in containers. I am not going to pretend there is a workaround. There isn't one. Corn on a small growing space is a fun thing to grow and a terrible thing to save. Buy the packet. Number 12. Squash and pumpkin. Now we get to the one that surprises people, and it surprises them in the produce aisle. Zucchini, yellow crookneck and straightneck, patty pan, acorn squash, delicata, spaghetti squash, most jack-o'-lantern pumpkins, most of those little painted ornamental gourds on the porch in October. Those are all one species. Cucurbita pepo, every one of them. They cross with each other freely, completely, and enthusiastically, because bees do not read labels. Your delicata will cross with somebody's Halloween pumpkin 4 balconies over, and the seedling that comes up next May will be some orange-streaked, thick-skinned thing that is not quite either parent, and that nobody, including you, has a name for. The isolation distance to prevent it is half a mile in most sources. Seed Savers, South Dakota State. Take your pick. So squash should be down at the bottom with onion. It is at 12 for one reason. Hand pollination genuinely works, and it is the only technique on this whole list where you personally take control of who breeds with whom. Here is the actual protocol from the Seed Savers Hand Pollination Guide. The evening before, walk the plants and find tomorrow's flowers. The buds that are swollen and starting to show yellow at the tip. Females have a tiny fruit-shaped swelling right underneath and a short stem. Males have no swelling and a long stem. Seal 3 males for every 1 female. Masking tape on the male tips, 3/4 inch. Flagging tape tied around the female tip, and this is where people ruin it. Tie it far enough down that the top is completely sealed, but not so far down that you bruise the stigma inside. Next morning, once the dew has dried off, cut the male flowers with 3 or 4 inches of stem still attached so that you have something to hold on to. Peel the tape off, and tear the petals away until the anther is naked and loaded with pollen. Tear the top off the female flower to expose the stigma, which has 3 lobes. Swab pollen onto all 3 lobes, using all 3 males. Work fast. Then retape the female immediately, before a single bee gets near it, and tie a marker on the stem so you know which fruit is the one you are saving. Seed Savers uses 3 males from 3 different plants on purpose. It captures more genetic diversity and reduces the chance the fruit is pollinated entirely by its own mother. That detail matters. Then let the fruit sit, not just until it is ripe, 20 days past ripe, minimum. Then scoop, rinse, dry. Squash is wet processed, but it is not fermented. You just wash the pulp off and spread the seeds thin. One safety note, because it is real. All squash produce a defense chemical called cucurbitacin. Mild bitterness is environmental, from heat or uneven watering. But if a squash is genuinely sharply bitter, spit it out and throw the whole fruit away. Nebraska Extension documents poisoning cases where as little as 3 grams cause severe cramps and days of diarrhea. This risk goes up specifically in seed saved from a cross with an ornamental gourd, which is another argument for taping those flowers. Number 11. BEET and Swiss chard. Quick one, because the answer is short. BEET and Swiss chard are the same species, Beta vulgaris. So are sugar beets and mangels. They all cross with each other, and they are wind-pollinated, which means there is no taping your way out of it. Seed Savers puts the isolation at 3,200 feet, one of only 2 crops in the entire chart at that distance. They are also biennial, needing 8 to 12 weeks below 50 degrees, and the second-year seed crop takes another 140 to 160 days after you replant. That is most of a second year for one crop of seed. While I am here, kill a myth. Spinach does not cross with beets or chard. You will find that claim in print, and it is wrong. Spinach is Spinacia. Beet is Beta, different genera entirely. Beet and chard cross with each other. Neither crosses with spinach. Number 10. Kale, cabbage, and broccoli. Same trick as squash, one level worse. Kale, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, collards, kohlrabi, one species, Brassica oleracea. All of them cross with all of the others, and they are self-incompatible, which is a technical way of saying that most individual plants physically cannot set seed using their own pollen at all. So isolating one good specimen and waiting patiently gets you a handsome flower stalk in an empty pod. You need a crowd. Seed Savers says 80 plants for genetic preservation, and below about 5 you risk getting no seed at all, rather than just poor seed. Most of them are biennial too. One useful exception worth knowing: broccoli can be grown as an annual and will flower without a cold period. Cauliflower will not. If you want the seed, gently is the word. Organic Seed Alliance specifically warns that brassica seed is damaged by vigorous rubbing and puts it on the do not tread list. Number 9. Spinach. Spinach plants have separate sexes. Most of them are either male or female, roughly half and half, which means when you plant 20 spinach plants for seed, about 10 of them will never make a single seed. They are there purely to make pollen. That is why the minimum population is 80 rather than the 20 you would expect. It is also wind-pollinated, which puts it at 3,200 feet of isolation alongside beet. And wind is the one thing on this list you cannot tape, bag, cage, or negotiate with. The good news is that spinach is at least an annual, so you get seed in one season, and the seed is decent. Illinois says 3 years. Seed Savers says 6. Harvest when about 2/3 of the seeds have gone from green to tan. Wear gloves, because some varieties are prickly. If you grow exactly one variety of spinach and nobody within half a mile grows another, this is fine. That describes a surprising number of people. It probably does not describe an apartment building. Number 8. Radish. Radish looks like it should be easy. It grows in a month. It is the first thing anybody plants. And then it turns out to be one of the least cooperative crops here. Radish is self-incompatible, like the brassicas. One plant on its own gives you nothing reliable. It is rated very outcrossing, and it crosses with wild radish, which is a widespread weed across the country. That cross is not theoretical. California's wild radish populations are documented hybrids of the two. The pods are also awkward. Radish pods do not split open on their own the way most dry seed pods do. You have to tread on them in a container or crush them somehow. And you have to give up the radish. The root you are going to eat is the exact plant that has to bolt, flower, and then stand there for another 6 or 7 weeks making pods, which is a long time to stare at a vegetable that costs about $1. in a container that is a lot of real estate for a vegetable that costs almost nothing. Credit where it is due. Radish seed lasts 5 to 6 years, which is genuinely good. Number 7. Cucumber. Cucumber is bee-pollinated, monoecious, and needs serious isolation, half a mile in most sources. So on paper, it belongs down with squash. It gets to 7 for 2 reasons. The first is that hand pollination works on cucumber exactly the same way it works on squash, so the technique you already learned covers it. The second is a myth I want to put down, because it comes up every August without fail. Your cucumbers did not cross with your squash. They did not cross with your melons or your watermelon either. Iowa State Extension is unambiguous. The female flowers of each crop can only be fertilized by pollen from the same species, and cucumber, squash, and watermelon are 3 different species. If your cucumber tastes bitter this year, that is heat and inconsistent watering talking, not your neighbor's pumpkin. The processing is wet and it is fermented, and there is one step people skip. You cannot save seed from a cucumber you would eat. It has to go well past that, yellow or orange, soft, and then several more weeks on top of that. Then scoop the pulp into a jar and ferment it 1 to 3 days at 70 to 80 degrees. 5-year seed. Not bad at all. Number 6. The herb rack. Dill, cilantro, basil. Group these 3 because the answer is the same for all of them, and it is a good answer. Technically, all 3 are insect-pollinated outcrossers, with alarming isolation numbers on paper, 1,600 feet each. Practically, none of that matters to you. And here is why. You grow 1 dill, 1 cilantro, 1 or 2 basils. The isolation distance only matters if somebody within range is growing a different variety of the same herb and letting it flower at the same time as yours. And almost nobody on a city block lets their basil flower at all, because the moment it does, the leaves turn bitter and people cut it back. So the herbs are close to a free pass. All 3 are annuals. All 3 are dry processed. And all 3 throw absurd quantities of seed for the space they occupy. 1 dill plant that you let go will fill an envelope several times over. 2 handling notes. Cilantro is delicate. Organic Seed Alliance singles it out as too fragile for rough threshing, to rub it by hand or against a fine screen. Basil seed is tiny and needs the finest screens in the whole kit. And a piece of garden folklore to bin. Dill does not cross with fennel. Different genera. It gets repeated constantly, and no extension source backs it up. Coriander is the same plant as cilantro, so this one crop feeds you twice. Eat the leaf, save the seed, cook with the seed, plant the rest. That is about as close to free as the seed rack gets. Stop for a minute because everything below this line depends on one thing, and it is the thing people get wrong after doing everything else right. You can save perfect seed and kill it in a drawer. Seed dies from 2 things, heat and moisture, and although both of them will finish the job eventually, it is nearly always moisture that gets there first. Quietly, in a drawer, over the course of a winter you spent feeling good about yourself. The rule of thumb that the University of Maryland Extension and the Organic Seed Alliance both publish is easy to hold in your head. Add the temperature in Fahrenheit to the relative humidity as a percentage, and keep the total under 100. 70 degrees and 30% humidity is 100 exactly. That is your ceiling. Colorado State's version skips the arithmetic and just says below 40 degrees and under 8% seed moisture. So dry it hard, then seal it cold. Drying first, never above 95 degrees. Oregon State, Iowa State, and the Organic Seed Alliance all give that same ceiling, and the reason is simple. Above it, damage starts. Dark seeds are worse, because they can overheat above 80 in direct sun. So no dashboards, no radiators, no oven on low. Spread it thin on a screen or a plate, about 1/8 of an inch for wet processed seed, 1/2 an inch for dry, and give it days, not hours. How do you know it is dry enough? 2 field tests, both from the Organic Seed Alliance, and both work in a kitchen. Small seeds, bend 1. Truly dry seed snaps instead of folding. Large seeds, beans and peas and corn. Put one on a hard surface and hit it. Dry seed shatters like glass. Wet seed smashes flat. If your teeth can dent a bean, it is not ready. Then the container, and this is the part people cheap out on. Not a plastic bag. Colorado State's definition of a moisture-proof container is one that would keep the seed safe while submerged in water. Glass jars with a real seal. Then the freezer. The USDA's own advice to home gardeners is a vapor-proof container in a home freezer, and dried seeds stored that way can hold on 10 years or more. The fridge is the middle option and works fine. 2 rules, no exceptions. Do not freeze seed that is not properly dry, because ice crystals rupture the cells. And when you take the jar out, let it come to room temperature before you open it, or the condensation that forms will undo everything. Throw in a desiccant if you have one. Silica gel by equal weight, sealed together for 2 to 7 days. Powdered Milk Works and Minnesota Extension endorses it. Uncooked rice is the tip everybody repeats and nothing official backs. It is weak, and unlike silica, it cannot be dried out and reused. Container count and direction in the comments if you have not already. 5 left. These are the ones worth building the jar around. Number 5. Pepper. Pepper is the trap, and it catches good gardeners every year. Everybody will tell you pepper is self-pollinating. Every packet, every article, every neighbor. And it is, technically, but the phrase that fits it better is the one Seed Savers uses: partially self-pollinating. The published field measurements of natural cross-pollination in pepper run from 2% all the way up to 90%, depending on where you are and how many bees you have. 90%. That is not a rounding error. That is a different plant, which is why the isolation numbers are so much bigger than people expect. Seed Savers puts sweet pepper at 160 feet and hot pepper at 800, and rates the hot ones as the more promiscuous of the two. And the hot ones matter, because capsicum annuum covers most bells, jalapenos, cayenne, poblano, and it crosses readily with habanero and Tabasco on top of that. Which means if you have a sweet bell and a habanero on the same balcony, and you save seed from the bell, there is a real chance you hand somebody a sweet pepper next summer that sends them to the sink. The fix is small and it works. Bag the blossoms. A blossom bag over a flower cluster before it opens, left until the fruit sets. Pepper self-pollinates inside the bag with no help from you. The bag is only there to keep insects out. One thing pepper gets right, and it contradicts what a lot of people assume. Pepper does not need fermenting. Oregon State lists pepper, eggplant, and tomatillo specifically as crops that do not require it. Let the fruit go fully to its final color, then hold it up to 2 more weeks past the point you would eat it. Cut it open, scrape the seed off the core, spread and dry. That is the whole process. The weakness is the jar. Pepper seed is short-lived, 2 years by Illinois Extension, 3 at the outside. Plan on replacing it. Number 4. Lettuce. Lettuce is where the arithmetic starts working in your favor. It is a strong inbreeder, self-compatible, self-pollinating, and the measured crossing rates between varieties in adjacent rows come in around 1% up to about 3% when one variety is completely surrounded by another. That is low enough that a barrier row of something else, Maine's organic growers use 6 to 12 feet with a different crop in between, is genuinely enough on a small space. There is one wild relative to know about. Prickly lettuce, Lactuca cereola, grows on roadsides all over the country and will cross with your garden lettuce. But the numbers fall off a cliff with distance, about 2.5% at 0 meters, under 1% at 1 meter, and effectively nothing past 15. Distance solves it, and the distances involved are ones you actually have. Then the 2 payoffs. First, quantity. A single lettuce plant that bolts and flowers makes thousands of seeds, not hundreds, thousands. One plant fills an envelope you could not use up in 5 years. Second, longevity. And this is the number that puts lettuce at 6 years. Illinois Extension and Seed Savers agree on it, which they almost never do. It is one of the longest-lived seeds of any common vegetable. And nothing in the top 5 comes close to it. The cost is real and you should know it. To get seed, you have to let the plant bolt, which means it gets tall, bitter, and ugly, and it occupies a container for weeks after it stopped being food. On a balcony, that is a genuine trade. Timing matters more than technique here. Cut when just over half the seed heads have gone to that white feathery stage, and cut in the morning while the dew is still on, because dry lettuce seed heads shatter and dump the seed the moment you touch them. One last thing, and it saves people from throwing away good seed. Freshly harvested lettuce seed can be dormant for months. If you test it in October and it barely sprouts, that does not mean it is dead. Test it again in February. Number 3. Pea. Pea is the crop that requires the least from you of anything on this list, including the one at number 1. The flower self-pollinates before it even opens. By the time the bloom is showing, the work is already done, and there is nothing for a bee to interfere with. Seed Savers rates it very selfing and notes that it minimizes any need to worry about cross-pollination at all. The isolation figure people quote is 10 to 20 feet, and UC's is 5 to 10. That is the width of a balcony. It is an annual, so one season and you are done. No overwintering, no vernalization, no root cellar, and the processing is nothing. Leave the pods on the vine until they are brown and shriveled and rattle when you shake the plant, and if a frost is coming before they get there, pull the whole thing up by the roots and hang it somewhere dry indoors to finish on its own time. Shell them, then, and this is the step people skip. Air dry the shelled peas for about 6 weeks before you seal them up. 6 weeks, not 6 days. A pea feels dry long before it is dry, and a pea sealed at 10% moisture will rot in the jar or shatter in the freezer. Every kind of pea is one species, by the way. Snow peas, snap peas, shelling peas, soup peas, all Pisum sativa, all cross with each other. None of them cross with a cowpea or a sweet pea. So if you are growing exactly one kind, which most people are, there is nothing to manage. 3 to 4 years in the jar. Pea only sits at 3 instead of higher because of one thing: the yield to space ratio. Peas take up a lot of vertical container for the number of seeds they return, and they are done by midsummer. That is the only mark against it. Number 2. Tomato. If there is one crop on this list that pays for the whole habit, it is this one. It is also where the hybrid question finally matters, so deal with that first. Hybrid seed is not sterile. If the packet says F1, that seed will sprout perfectly well. It just will not be that variety anymore. The offspring split apart into a lottery of types, most of them less vigorous than the parent, and the disease resistance the breeder built in is the first thing to vanish. Illinois Extension and the University of Minnesota say the same thing in different words: viable seed, different plant. So it is not garbage. It is a breeding project you did not sign up for. If you want the same tomato next year, say from open-pollinated or heirloom seed, not from an F1. Now, what makes tomato so easy in the first place? In most modern tomato varieties, the anthers form a cone around the pistil. The flower is physically built to pollinate itself before anything can get in. The Organic Seed Alliance calls modern tomatoes almost entirely self-pollinating. The isolation you need is 10 feet. There is a real exception, and it is worth knowing which shelf your variety sits on. Potato leaf varieties, Brandywine is the famous one, have a slightly exposed stigma and need about 40 feet. Currant tomatoes, the tiny wild ones, are a different species that will still cross with yours, and they need 160. If you are growing a standard modern tomato next to another standard modern tomato, 10 feet is genuinely enough. Now the part that scares people off, which should not scare anybody: fermentation. Each tomato seed sits inside a little gel sac, and that gel contains compounds that stop the seed germinating. Fermentation dissolves it. It also knocks down disease organisms living on the outside of the seed coat. And I want to be precise, because a lot of sources overstate this. Fermentation reduces surface-borne pathogens. It does not reach anything that has already got inside the seed. That is what hot water treatment is for, and that is a different job. The method takes 4 minutes of actual work. Cut the tomato across its middle. Squeeze the pulp and seeds into a jar. Add water only if it is too thick to stir. A lot of people add none at all. Cover it loosely, never seal it, and stir 2 or 3 times a day. It sits at roughly 70 to 85 degrees for 2 to 4 days. A white mold layer will grow on top. That is supposed to happen. Do not panic and do not skim it. 3 signals tell you when to stop, and you want all 3 of them before you touch it. The bubbling stops, a thick mold layer has formed across the surface, and the gel has gone completely from around the seeds, so they feel gritty rather than slippery between your fingers. Then pour in about 4 parts water to 1 part pulp in a container, big enough to hold 10 times the volume. Wait a minute. The good seed sinks. The pulp, the dead seed, and the empty seed float. Pour the floating layer off, refill, repeat until what is left is clean seed and clear water. Then spread it thin, 1/8 of an inch, on a screen or a plate. Not on paper, not on newspaper, not on a coffee filter, not on cardboard. Wet tomato seed glues itself to paper, and you will spend an evening peeling it off. And one warning that is easy to miss. If you leave it fermenting too long, the seeds sprout in the jar. Once the root tip emerges, the seed cannot be dried and stored. It is finished. Organic Seed Alliance is blunt. That sprouting means damage has already occurred. Check it daily and stop when the gel is gone. 4 to 6 years in the jar, with some sources claiming 10 under good conditions. Number 1. Common bean. And here it is. The crop where the food and the seed are the same object. That sentence is the entire reason bean is number 1. And it takes a second to land. With a tomato, you eat the fruit and process the seed. With lettuce, you sacrifice the plant. With onion, you give up 2 seasons. With a bean, the thing you were going to eat and the thing you were going to plant are the same object sitting in the same pod, which means the only processing step in the entire operation is deciding not to cook some of them. You do not process anything, you just stop eating some of them. The pollination is the best on the list. Common bean is very selfing, with the flower largely pollinating itself before it opens. The published outcrossing figures argue with each other. One old study found 10%. A Davis study scored 20,000 offspring and found 0 crosses, calculating a maximum of about 0.5%. The honest summary is usually well under 1% and not quite 0. Isolation of 10 to 20 feet covers you. It crosses with other common beans and nothing else. Not with limas, not with runner beans, not with fava, not with cowpeas. Those are all different species or different genera entirely. So the green bean and the dry bean and the wax bean on your railing are the only things that can mix, and if you are growing one variety, nothing can. The processing is barely a process. Leave the pods on the plant until they are hard, dry, and brittle and rattle when you shake them. If frost is coming, pull the whole plant and finish it indoors on a screen. Shell by hand. There is your test again. If your teeth dent a bean, it is not dry enough yet. 3 to 4 years in the jar. 10 to 20 plants keeps a variety honest, and even 5 will maintain it for personal use. One caution, because it is the one place bean is genuinely weak. Beans carry seed-borne disease and, unlike tomato, they cannot be rescued. Large-seeded crops cannot be hot water treated. The heat required to kill the pathogen kills the seed. So the rule is absolute, and it is also free. If a bean plant looks sick, do not save from it. Not the healthy-looking pods on the sick plant. Not any of it. Save from plants that looked good all season, and you have removed the only real risk this crop has. Here is what that adds up to on a small growing space. A single healthy bush bean plant produces dozens of seeds. You need maybe 15 to 20 of them to replant next year's row. Everything past that is dinner. The entire cost of the habit is the discipline to walk past one plant in August and let its pods go leathery and ugly while you eat from the others. That is the whole thing. One plant, ignored on purpose, and you never buy that packet again. One more thing and it takes 10 seeds. Come February, before you plant a single row, run a germination test. 10 seeds on a damp paper towel, wet, not dripping. Space them a finger's width apart. Fold the towel over. Slide it into a plastic bag with some air still trapped inside so the seeds can breathe, and leave it somewhere that sits around 70 to 80 degrees. Check it daily from about day 3. Give it up to 3 weeks, because some crops are slow and Organic Seed Alliance says run it at least 21 days before you call it. 10 out of 10 plant normally. 7 to 9 still good, just sow heavier. 6 or fewer replace the lot. And one caveat that saves people from throwing away perfectly live seed. Freshly harvested lettuce, spinach, and pepper seed can sit dormant for months. If your October test comes back at 2 out of 10, that is not a dead lot. Test it again in February. Skip the float test. It is the one everybody knows and no extension service recommends it for judging stored seed. Buoyancy tells you about trapped air, not about whether an embryo is alive. The only place floating means anything is in the jar at harvest, separating good seed from pulp. There it is real. 6 months later, in a glass of water, it tells you almost nothing. Look at what the jar actually holds if you take the top 5 and leave the rest. Beans, tomatoes, peas, lettuce, peppers. 5 envelopes. Every one of them self-pollinating. So nothing on that shelf needs half a mile of isolation, and every one of them an annual. so nothing needs a second season or a cold garage to survive the winter. 4 of the 5 dry processed, so the only wet job in the whole set is 1 jar of tomato pulp on the counter for 3 days in September. That is not a homestead operation. That is a shoebox. The reason to bother is not that seed packets are expensive. $4 is $4. It is that seed you grew yourself is the one input in this whole hobby that nobody can put out of stock, mark up, or quietly discontinue because it did not sell well enough. So which one are you starting with? Beans, because the pods are already sitting on the plant? A tomato you've grown for years and never once kept? Or peppers, because you finally want to know what happens if you bag a blossom? Tell me below with your container count.
Don't be so quick to spend a fortune on expensive skincare serums when you crave a youthful, radiant glow. Because the ultimate fountain of youth could be growing just outside your door. If you think cultivating a wellness garden requires a massive plot of land, think again. All you need is a single container to build your own backyard oasis of health. Today, I will reveal the ultimate list of 15 anti-aging container fruit trees for your home garden. 15 plants, 15 antioxidant-rich harvests, 15 rejuvenating flavors, perfectly tailored to transform your patio into a thriving, youth-boosting botanical powerhouse. Kicking off our anti-aging backyard oasis at number 15 is the incredibly resilient cranberry. When looking for a biological cheat code to fight the aging process, this shallow-rooted, creeping evergreen vine is the ultimate container companion. Because this plant demands a constantly damp environment to survive, you absolutely must use a wide, 10-gallon hard plastic pot to trap moisture and prevent the root zone from rapidly drying out. Standard potting dirt will kill this plant instantly. You must fill this container with a highly specialized, extremely acidic mixture consisting entirely of pure sphagnum peat moss and coarse sand, strictly maintaining a pH between 4.5 and 5.5. You do not grow cranberries from seeds, as they take grueling years to fruit. Instead, you must press a dormant softwood cutting directly into the damp peat in early spring. Place the container in the absolute hottest, most blistering full sun location your patio can offer. Because they thrive in bog-like conditions, your watering schedule must be relentless, soaking the soil daily with harvested rainwater, as the alkaline calcium in municipal tap water will completely destroy the soil's critical acidity. Feed it twice a season with a slow-release, acid-loving organic fertilizer. The harvest time arrives in late autumn. Once the firm berries transform into a deep, glossy crimson red, pluck them completely by hand. Use these intensely tart fruits to boil down into rich, antioxidant-loaded jams. According to detailed dermatological research published in the Journal of Investigative Dermatology, the massive concentration of proanthocyanidins found in cranberries actively acts as an internal sunblock, physically mitigating UV-induced oxidative stress and directly stimulating pro-collagen synthesis in human skin cells. Here is a fascinating fact. Because fresh cranberries contain 4 microscopic, perfectly sealed air pockets inside their flesh, they are physically, measurably buoyant and will literally bounce like miniature rubber balls when dropped onto a hard kitchen counter. At number 14 is the formidable black chokeberry, scientifically known as Aronia melanocarpa. This incredibly rugged, cold-hardy shrub produces clusters of dark berries and is absolutely tailor-made to be an anti-aging powerhouse on your patio. Because it develops a vigorous, spreading root system, you must use a substantial 15-gallon, highly breathable fabric grow bag to effectively air prune the roots and stop them from choking the container. Fill the bag with a top-tier loamy potting soil, heavily amended with rich organic compost. You can easily grow this by separating a live, rooted sucker directly from a mature mother plant and burying it deeply in the fresh soil. Place the container in blazing, unrelenting sunlight. Black chokeberries are remarkably drought-tolerant. You must allow the top 3 inches of soil to become strictly bone-dry before unleashing a heavy deluge of water, completely preventing fungal root rot. Feed it generously just once in early spring with a balanced organic granular fertilizer. Arriving in late summer, the clusters will turn completely pitch black. Do not harvest immediately. You must practice extreme patience and leave them hanging on the blistering bush for an additional 2 weeks to chemically reduce their intense astringency before snapping them off. In the kitchen, crush the dark berries and boil them into thick medicinal syrups. According to comprehensive nutritional research published by the USDA Agricultural Research Service, the black chokeberry possesses one of the highest scientifically recorded ORAC values, measuring pure antioxidant capacity, of any fruit on the planet, possessing a massive arsenal of anthocyanins that ruthlessly hunt down and destroy the free radicals responsible for cellular aging. Here is a fascinating fact. The name chokeberry is biologically literal. If you attempt to eat a freshly picked raw berry straight off the bush, the massive levels of tannins will violently draw all the moisture out of your mouth, making your face physically pucker and your tongue stick to the roof of your mouth instantly. Coming in at number 13 is the magnificent elderberry. This fast-growing, highly vigorous deciduous shrub produces umbrella-shaped clusters of dark fruit and thrives brilliantly as an immune-boosting container specimen. Because this shrub grows aggressively fast and becomes top-heavy when carrying fruit, you must select a massive 20-gallon, heavy-duty thick plastic pot to prevent severe patio winds from completely toppling it over. Fill the container with a highly aerated, extremely rich potting soil that holds water efficiently but readily drains excess out the bottom. You must start this plant by sticking a dormant hardwood cutting deep into the soil during the dead of winter. Place the container in an incredibly bright, full sun location. Elderberries are relentless drinkers during their massive growth phase. You must water the container heavily and frequently, ensuring the root zone never completely dries out during the blistering summer heat. Feed it consistently every 4 weeks with a high nitrogen liquid fertilizer to fuel its leafy canopy. The harvest time is incredibly rewarding. You must wait until late summer when the entire cluster of tiny berries turns a glossy, dark purplish black before using heavy pruning shears to snip the entire stalk right off the plant. Strip the berries and boil them down to create a world-famous dark purple immune-boosting syrup. A rigorous medical review published by the Cleveland Clinic explicitly highlights that the tremendous concentration of flavonoids in black elderberries directly targets systemic inflammation and actively inhibits viral replication, keeping the human body biologically resilient and youthful against cellular damage. Here is a fascinating fact. The raw elderberry plant is biologically armed. The uncooked berries, raw leaves, and woody stems contain high concentrations of cyanogenic glycosides, meaning if you consume them raw without boiling them first, your stomach acid will chemically convert the plant matter into highly toxic, sickening hydrogen cyanide. Sliding into number 12 is the highly exotic Indian gooseberry, globally revered as amla. The idea of growing a sprawling tropical amla tree in a backyard pot seems completely insane. But utilizing grafted saplings turns this extreme vitamin C powerhouse into a rejuvenating patio container specimen. Because the root system absolutely despises standing water and demands heavy oxygenation, you must select a deep 15-gallon unglazed terracotta pot to rapidly draw out excess moisture. Fill the pot with an incredibly poor, sandy, cactus-like potting mix, heavily choked with perlite and pumice. You must completely avoid planting amla seeds as they will grow wildly unpredictable. You must purchase a professionally grafted tree. Place the pot in the most blistering, sweltering, full sun location possible. Your watering strategy must explicitly rely on a severe wet and dry cycle. Soak the terracotta pot completely, then absolutely refuse to water it again until the entire container is completely bone dry to prevent instantaneous root rot. Feed it monthly with a balanced organic fertilizer to fuel the summer growth. Arriving in the dead of winter, the perfectly round, hard fruits are ready to harvest when their skin turns a completely translucent, pale jade green. Gently twist them off the woody branches. Slice the hard, crisp flesh and preserve them in raw, organic honey to create a deeply rejuvenating daily tonic. A detailed biochemical profile published by the National Institutes of Health, NIH, confirms that amla extract contains such a massively stable, concentrated dose of natural vitamin C that it physically protects human skin fibroblasts from severe oxidative stress, directly forcing the body to synthesize fresh, youthful collagen. Here is a fascinating fact. The amla fruit possesses a bizarre chemical reaction with human saliva. When you aggressively chew the violently sour, highly astringent raw fruit and immediately swallow a glass of plain tap water, the water will mysteriously and powerfully taste like pure, refined liquid sugar. Number 11 brings us the spectacular genetic dwarf plum. Standard plum trees grow aggressively large, but this specific dwarf mutation is an absolute container superstar that produces brain-protecting stone fruit. You must select a massive 20-gallon heavy wooden half-barrel for this plant. The sheer physical weight completely secures the top-heavy, fruit-bearing tree during severe summer storms. Fill the barrel with a rich, loamy, compost-heavy potting soil, heavily amended with cocoa coir. Start this plant by purchasing a dormant, grafted tree on extreme dwarfing rootstock and burying it deeply into the soil during early spring. Place the container in full, blazing backyard sun. Plums are thirsty plants when actively setting fruit. You must water the wooden barrel deeply and consistently during the summer heat, never allowing the soil to dry out and trigger premature fruit drop. Crucially, you must physically thin the tree by violently plucking off half of the unripe green fruit, forcing the tree to pump all its energy into the remaining plums. Apply a slow-release organic granular fertilizer just once in early spring. The harvest arrives in the peak of midsummer. Gently squeeze the dark purple skin, and if the flesh yields slightly to gentle thumb pressure, twist it off the branch. Eat them raw to absorb the rich skin, or slowly bake them into heavy, rustic summer tarts. A comprehensive physiological study published by Florida State University scientifically proved that consuming dried plums introduces massive levels of specific phenolic compounds into the bloodstream, actively reversing severe bone loss and drastically improving bone mineral density in aging adults. Here is a fascinating fact. Your dwarf plum tree absolutely demands to freeze. It biologically tracks chill hours and will stubbornly refuse to wake up and produce a single flower in the spring unless it physically endures hundreds of hours of brutal temperatures, dropping below 45 degrees Fahrenheit during the dead of winter. Are any of the 5 plants we just mentioned already in your garden? Let me know in the comments. Now, let's move on to the top 10 of this list. Be sure to watch until the end. There are many plants that will surprise you. At number 10 is the breathtaking dwarf peach tree. Forget the towering giant commercial peach orchards. Modern agricultural breeding has produced magnificent 4-foot-tall genetic dwarfs that yield skin-hydrating fruit right in backyard containers. Because the root system is highly sensitive to suffocation, A wide, 15-gallon heavy plastic pot with massive drainage holes drilled into the bottom is the absolute perfect choice. Fill the container with a slightly acidic, heavily composted potting soil mixed generously with coarse pine bark for superior drainage. You must purchase a bare root, grafted, self-fertile dormant tree from a specialized nursery and plant it before the buds break. Place the container in full, unobstructed, blistering sunlight. Watering requires strict daily attention during the brutal summer heat. As the fruit sets, the soil must be kept consistently, deeply moist. Feed it heavily every 4 weeks with a high-potassium liquid fertilizer to drastically increase the sugar content of the developing peaches. The harvest time is remarkably fast, usually arriving in late summer. You will know they are perfectly ripe when the green skin completely transitions to a blushing, vibrant red, and the entire patio smells like a heavy, floral peach perfume. Gently pull the warm fruit from the branch. Slice these juicy peaches directly over a hot grill to caramelize their natural sugars. A comprehensive nutritional study, published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry, scientifically proved that the unique ceramides and vitamins A and C found intensely concentrated directly beneath the peach's fuzzy skin actively rebuild the human skin barrier, physically locking in moisture and smoothing out deep, age-related wrinkles. Here is a fascinating fact. Despite the tree itself being genetically dwarfed to look like a tiny, comical miniature, the spectacular pink spring blossoms that explode on its branches are biologically massive, growing significantly larger and showier than the flowers on full-sized, 60-foot commercial peach trees. Coming in at number 9 is the lush, tropical-looking loquat. This spectacular, broad-leafed evergreen tree produces clusters of bright orange, highly aromatic fruit and thrives brilliantly as a vision-protecting patio container specimen. Because this tree develops massive, thick, leathery leaves that catch heavy winds like a sailboat, you must select an extremely heavy 20-gallon thick concrete or terracotta planter to prevent catastrophic wind damage. Fill the container with a high-quality, heavy garden loam, completely mixed with well-rotted cow manure that holds moisture but drains excess out the bottom. You must purchase a cleft-grafted nursery tree, as growing from seed guarantees a massive 10-year wait for a single piece of fruit. Place the container in an incredibly bright, full-sun location. Loquat trees are incredibly rugged and highly drought-tolerant. You must allow the soil to severely dry out between deep soakings, as sitting in stagnant water will cause the roots to suffocate and rot instantly. Feed it consistently 3 times a year with a balanced citrus fertilizer to fuel the massive evergreen canopy. The harvest time is incredibly unique, occurring from late spring into early summer. You must wait until the entire cluster turns a blazing yellow-orange before using heavy shears to cut the whole thick stalk right off the branch to avoid bruising the extremely delicate skin. Pop the seeds out and boil the sweet flesh into a throat-soothing, anti-inflammatory syrup. A rigorous botanical review, published by the University of California Cooperative Extension, explicitly states that loquat fruits and leaves contain staggering, concentrated levels of carotenoids, which the human body aggressively converts into vitamin A to physically halt macular degeneration and protect aging eye tissue. Here is a fascinating fact. The loquat tree completely ignores the fundamental biological laws of the seasons. While every other fruit tree on Earth blooms in the warm spring, the loquat stubbornly waits until the temperature plunges, forcefully bursting into fragrant white blossoms in the dead, freezing cold of late autumn and early winter. Number 8 brings us the spectacular columnar apple. Traditional apple trees require massive acreage, but this completely bizarre genetic mutation forces the tree to grow straight up into a single vertical pole, making it the ultimate space-saving, anti-aging biological cheat code for small balconies. Because it naturally grows as a dense vertical spire, you must use a deep, heavy 15-gallon wooden barrel to firmly anchor the deep taproot. Fill the barrel with an incredibly heavy, dense mixture of 50% rich topsoil and 50% organic compost to prevent the towering tree from violently swaying. You must purchase a grafted nursery sapling, and crucially, you absolutely must purchase 2 completely different varieties and place the pots side by side, as they strictly require biological cross-pollination to produce fruit. Place the heavy barrel in an area receiving full, direct sunlight. Because apple roots are remarkably shallow, you must water the barrel frequently, ensuring the top layer of soil never completely dries to dust. Apply a heavy top dressing of pure compost to the surface every single spring. Arriving in the crisp air of mid-autumn, the vertical trunk will be adorned with crisp, beautiful apples. Do not yank them. Gently twist the fruit upward until the stem completely snaps off the spur. Eat them raw, completely unpeeled, for maximum health benefits. A decades-long health study published by Cornell University definitively proved that the heavy concentration of quercetin found exclusively in the apple's raw skin physically hunts down and destroys senescent zombie cells in the human body, drastically lowering systemic inflammation and protecting the brain against severe neurodegenerative diseases. Here is a fascinating fact. The columnar apple tree literally grows exactly like a wooden flagpole. It possesses absolutely 0 horizontal branches, and all the fruit grows on microscopic, tiny spurs protruding directly out of the main central trunk. At number 7, we have the magnificent dwarf persimmon. This stunning deciduous tree produces a beautiful display of blazing orange fruit against dramatic autumn foliage, and is specifically engineered to thrive in cramped containers. You must plant it in a massive 15-gallon, heavy-duty fiberglass pot to accommodate its thick, fleshy root system. Fill the pot with a highly specialized, rapidly draining soil mix, heavily diluted with coarse pine bark and massive amounts of perlite. Persimmon roots will instantly rot if trapped in heavy, wet dirt. Buy a live, cleft-grafted tree from a certified nursery. Place it in a location receiving full, unshaded sunlight from dawn until dusk. Your watering strategy must explicitly rely on ruthless discipline. Soak the pot completely until water pours out the bottom. Then absolutely refuse to water it again until the soil is completely dry. You must be incredibly stingy with nitrogen fertilizers. If you overfeed it, the tree will panic and violently abort its unripe baby fruit onto the patio. The harvest time occurs right in the dead of winter, providing a spectacular, brilliant burst of blazing orange fruit hanging on entirely bare branches. If growing an astringent variety, you must wait until the fruit turns completely to mush, feeling exactly like a heavy water balloon before eating it. Slice the soft flesh and eat it with a spoon like pudding. A major biochemical profile, published by the University of California, Davis, dictates that the massive levels of lycopene and complex tannins in persimmons physically bind to circulating bile acids in the human digestive tract, actively flushing out bad cholesterol and drastically clearing out aging, clogged blood vessels. Here is a fascinating fact. If you pull a perfectly healthy persimmon tree completely out of its pod, you will notice the entire root system is pitch, jet black. Novice gardeners constantly assume the plant has catastrophic root rot and throw the extremely expensive, perfectly healthy tree directly into the garbage. Number 6 is the majestic kiwi berry, scientifically known as Actinidia arguta. Most people falsely assume kiwis are large, fuzzy, brown fruits. But this aggressive climbing vine produces smooth-skinned, grape-sized superfruits directly in a backyard container. Because it is an active climbing woody vine, you must use a substantial, wide 15-gallon wooden planter. Crucially, you must securely bolt a towering, heavy-duty metal or bamboo trellis directly into the container to physically support the vertical growth of the vines. Fill the pot with a rich, highly humid, compost-heavy potting mix. You must purchase live-rooted cuttings, and absolutely crucially, you must plant both a male and a female vine in the same container, as the female will stubbornly refuse to produce a single berry without male pollen. Place the container in blazing, unrelenting sunlight. Kiwi vines consist of a massive leafy canopy, meaning your watering schedule must be relentless. You must heavily drench the soil every single day during the summer heat. Feed it generously every spring with a high nitrogen fertilizer. Arriving in early autumn, the vines will be filled with small, smooth green berries. Harvest by gently pressing the skin. When it yields to soft pressure, pluck it off. Do not peel them. Simply pop the entire, smooth, sweet berry directly into your mouth. According to detailed botanical research published by the Oregon State University Extension, the completely edible, smooth skin of the kiwi berry contains intensely concentrated levels of vitamin E, vitamin C, and lutein that are significantly denser than standard kiwis, acting as a biological shield against cellular oxidation and aggressively preserving human skin elasticity. Here is a fascinating fact. Despite looking like a delicate, highly tropical fruit, the woody kiwi berry vine is scientifically classified as extremely cold-hardy, possessing the biological ability to completely freeze solid and survive brutal winter temperatures, plunging down to -30 degrees Fahrenheit without sustaining any cellular damage. Have you tasted any of these fruits before? Which fruit on this list impressed you the most? Let me know in the comments below. We are now getting close to the top 5 of this list. Make sure to watch until the very last plant. You'll be surprised. Let's keep going. Taking the number 5 spot is the spectacular Suriname cherry. This incredible, fast-growing tropical shrub produces a beautiful array of highly unique, deeply ribbed fruits and is perfectly tailored for a shallow backyard container. Because it naturally thrives with restricted roots, you must use a wide, 10-gallon unglazed terracotta bonsai-style pot to effectively draw out excess moisture and prevent rot. Fill the terracotta pot with a highly aerated, slightly acidic potting mix, heavily amended with coarse sand and pine bark fines. Remarkably, unlike almost all other fruit trees, you can easily grow the Suriname cherry directly from a fresh seed, often yielding fruit in just 2 short years. Place the container in the most blistering, sun-drenched corner of your patio. During the peak summer, water the terracotta pot consistently, keeping the root zone damp but ensuring the glossy foliage remains completely dry, to absolutely prevent severe fungal leaf spot. Apply a heavy, phosphorus-rich organic granular fertilizer early in spring to trigger a beautiful floral explosion. Arriving in late spring, you will know the fruits are perfectly ripe only when the deeply ribbed skin turns a dark, blood red or almost pitch black. Hand-pick the soft fruits individually. Do not eat the bright orange ones, as they are violently resinous and will coat your mouth in a foul, bitter film. Boil the ripe, dark red fruits down into rich, complex, aromatic jellies. A comprehensive biochemical analysis published by the University of Florida IFAS Extension scientifically confirms that the essential oils physically trapped inside the leaves and deeply ribbed skin of the Suriname cherry possess extraordinarily powerful antimicrobial and antioxidant properties, heavily boosting dermal microcirculation and fiercely protecting human cells against rapid structural degradation. Here is a fascinating fact. Biologically speaking, the Suriname cherry does not resemble a traditional cherry in any capacity. The small, deeply grooved fruit physically looks exactly like a flawless, incredibly miniaturized, highly glossy, 8-sided pumpkin. Breaking into the top 4 is the magnificent passion fruit vine. This strange, incredibly aggressive tropical climber produces fragrant purple fruits and is absolutely tailor-made to be an anti-aging vine on your patio. Because it is a relentlessly active, heavy vine, you must use a massive 20-gallon, highly breathable fabric grow bag with a towering, heavy-duty wooden trellis firmly anchored directly into the dirt. Fill the bag with an incredibly rich, top-tier potting soil, heavily choked with dark, well-rotted cow manure, as this vine will rapidly strip the soil of all nutrients. You can easily propagate this by aggressively rooting a softwood cutting in damp perlite. Place the container in blazing, unrelenting full sunlight. The passion fruit vine is a ferocious tropical drinker. You must water the massive fabric bag heavily every single day during the summer heat, never allowing the enormous leafy canopy to wilt. Feed it relentlessly every single month with a high-potassium liquid bloom booster to trigger the spectacular flowers and prevent the vine from aborting its fruit. The harvest time requires zero effort. You must completely refuse to pick the fruit off the vine. Simply wait until the heavy, dark purple fruit becomes highly wrinkled and physically drops off the vine directly onto the patio floor. Slice the wrinkled alien fruit in half and scoop out the intensely aromatic, sweet tart jelly and crunchy seeds. According to rigorous dermatological research published in the Journal of Cosmetic Dermatology, the crunchy black seeds of the passion fruit contain incredibly rare, concentrated levels of pitsietanol, a highly potent biological compound proven to actively suppress melanogenesis, physically halting the formation of dark age spots and drastically preserving the human skin's structural collagen matrix. Here is a fascinating fact. The flower of the passion fruit vine is biologically considered one of the most complex, spectacular, and alien-looking floral structures in the entire global plant kingdom, featuring bizarre, fleshy purple filaments specifically evolved to violently brush pollen onto the backs of massive carpenter bees. Coming in at number 3 is the highly exotic tamarillo, commonly known as the tree tomato. This spectacular, fast-growing, semi-woody shrub produces clusters of brilliant, egg-shaped fruits and thrives brilliantly as a nutrient-dense patio container specimen. Because this plant develops enormous, incredibly fragile, umbrella-like leaves that act like sails in the wind, you absolutely must select a massive, extremely heavy 20-gallon terracotta pot to prevent the entire tree from violently snapping in half during a storm. Fill the container with a high-quality, highly humid, heavily composted potting soil that holds water efficiently but readily drains out the bottom. You must start this plant by taking a live cutting, as it forces the plant to grow into a short, stocky, productive bush rather than a spindly, towering tree. Place the container in an incredibly bright, warm location, but you absolutely must ensure it is completely protected from harsh backyard crosswind. Tamarillo trees are relentless water consumers. You must deeply soak the container every single day during the scorching summer heat, as the massive leaves transpire water incredibly fast. Feed it consistently every 4 weeks with heavily pelleted poultry manure. The harvest time arrives in late autumn through winter. You must wait until the firm green skin completely transitions to a deep, striking blood red or golden yellow before snapping them off the branches. Cut them in half and scoop out the tangy, savory sweet jelly, but absolutely avoid chewing the intensely bitter outer skin. A rigorous medical review, published by Rutgers University, explicitly confirms that the deep red tamarillo contains a massive, concentrated trifecta of vitamins A, C, and E, alongside incredibly dense anthocyanins, scientifically proven to violently hunt down free radicals, prevent age-related macular degeneration, and significantly lower oxidized bad cholesterol in the human bloodstream. Here is a fascinating fact. The tamarillo possesses a truly terrifying biological growth rate. If planted from a tiny, microscopic seed in ideal conditions, it will explode into a massive, thick-trunked fruiting tree in just 8 to 10 incredibly short months. The runner-up at number 2 is the breathtaking, legendary olive tree. This is not just a standard fruit tree. This is an ancient, highly revered biological marvel that produces extreme longevity-boosting fruit right in a backyard container. Because olive tree roots absolutely despise standing water and demand aggressive aeration, you must select a heavy, unglazed 15-gallon terracotta pot. You must completely avoid using rich, standard potting dirt. Instead, fill the pot with a highly specialized, incredibly poor, rocky mixture, choked with massive amounts of coarse gravel, sand, and agricultural pumice to mimic the barren, stony slopes of the Mediterranean. Purchase a professionally air-layered, established tree from a certified nursery. Place the heavy terracotta pot in the most punishing, blistering, sun-scorched, full-sun environment available. Treat it exactly like an unkillable desert survivor. Your watering strategy must rely on absolute, ruthless neglect, allowing the rocky soil to become utterly, completely bone-dry for weeks before unleashing a deluge of water. Apply only a tiny, single handful of extremely slow-release organic fertilizer just once a year. Occurring in late autumn, wait until the hard green olives completely transition to a soft, dark purplish black before stripping them from the branches. You absolutely cannot eat them raw off the tree. They must be submerged and aggressively cured in a heavy salt brine for months to leach out the violently bitter aleuropine. According to a landmark dietary trial published by the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, consuming the heavily concentrated oleic acid and polyphenols extracted from these fruits forcefully acts as a massive systemic anti-inflammatory agent, physically rejuvenating the endothelial lining of human blood vessels and drastically extending cellular lifespan. Here is a fascinating fact. The olive tree is scientifically considered the absolute, undisputed global champion of biological longevity. There are individual, living olive trees thriving in the Mediterranean today that are scientifically carbon-dated and verified to be actively producing fruit at well over 2,000 years old. Taking the absolute crown at number 1 is the astonishing miracle berry, scientifically known as Syncephalum dulcificum. Standard anti-aging focuses on repairing damage, but this completely bizarre, magical West African shrub attacks the aging process at its most fundamental, hidden biological root. It forces you to completely eradicate refined sugar from your diet. Because this highly sensitive understory shrub requires extreme acidic conditions and grows incredibly slowly, a tight 5-gallon plastic pot is the absolute ultimate container. Standard potting soil will violently kill this plant in days. You must fill the container with an extremely acidic, completely soilless mixture consisting entirely of 50% pure peat moss and 50% perlite. You must propagate this by physically pressing a fresh, wet seed directly out of the fruit into the damp peat. If the seed dries out for even a single hour, it dies instantly. Place the plastic pot in a highly humid, dappled, partial shade environment, completely protecting it from the scorching afternoon sun. The watering strategy requires strict chemical discipline. You must heavily drench the acidic soil exclusively with distilled water or rainwater, as standard tap water will completely neutralize the acid and choke the plant. Apply only highly diluted, liquid organic fertilizer drops. Harvest the small, bright red, oval-shaped berries year-round as they ripen on the slow-growing bush. According to detailed biochemical research published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry, the fleshy pulp of this berry contains a highly complex, scientifically unique glycoprotein called miraculin. When you chew the raw flesh, this protein physically binds directly to the sweet receptors on your human tongue, completely altering their biological shape and effectively hacking your brain's neurological flavor perception. Here is a fascinating fact. Because the miraculin protein temporarily rewires your taste buds, for exactly 2 hours after eating just a single miracle berry, you can bite directly into a raw lemon, drink straight apple cider vinegar, or violently chew a raw onion. And your brain will perceive them all as tasting exactly like intensely sweet, delicious, sugary candy, allowing you to completely eliminate skin-destroying, collagen-binding sugars from your diet forever. That wraps up our list of the 15 best anti-aging container fruit trees for your home garden. Which of these youth-boosting varieties makes the most sense for your space? Did I leave out an antioxidant-rich fruit tree that you've already had success growing? Let me know in the comments below, along with what wellness or gardening topics you want me to cover next. If you found this video practical and helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more natural health guides, and I will see you in the next video. Stay radiant and happy growing.
July is the peak of summer, but it also triggers massive mosquito outbreaks. Summer heat and sudden rains create perfect breeding grounds, quickly turning your patio into a bug zone. Most people rely on sticky chemical sprays, but they often ruin the relaxing vibe. Fortunately, nature offers a better solution. Certain flowers naturally release oils that block mosquitoes from finding you. By growing them in pots, you gain the flexibility to place this natural shield exactly where you sit or dine. Here are 15 container flowers that repel mosquitoes during July outbreaks, so you can reclaim your yard. Now, let's get into it. Kicking off our countdown at number 15 is an absolute staple of the classic American summer garden, the petunia. Known for its brilliant trumpet-shaped blossoms that bloom continuously from late spring until the first frost, the petunia creates breathtaking cascading waterfalls of soft, velvety color that instantly upgrade any outdoor space. While they are technically grown as tender perennials in the deep heat of USDA zones 10 and 11, for the vast majority of the country, they are cultivated as fast-growing annuals that absolutely explode into a riot of color during the long, hot days of summer. But beyond their undeniable curb appeal, petunias serve a highly strategic, symbiotic purpose in your biological arsenal. Here is the harsh biological reality of a backyard war. Your primary mosquito-repelling heavy artillery, plants like mint, sage, and basil, are constantly targeted by sap-sucking invaders like aphids, whiteflies, and hornworms. If your defensive herbs are drained of their lifeblood, they cannot synthesize the volatile essential oils needed to fight off a mosquito outbreak. This is exactly where petunias step in as your frontline bodyguards. They naturally synthesize a subtle, sticky compound on their stems and leaves that acts as a localized trap and deterrent for these secondary pests, clearing the airspace before they can infiltrate. The true tactical advantage, however, comes from how you plant them. Cultivating petunias in hanging baskets is your ultimate biological weapon. By suspending these cascading flowers above the ground, you are actively elevating your defense system. Instead of trapping this protective barrier down at soil level, hanging baskets raise it right to human head height. You create a literal aerial buffer zone, a botanical shield that intercepts and neutralizes destructive parasites along the roofline of your front porch or the overhang of your back patio. This ensures that your heavy-duty mosquito repellents down below remain perfectly healthy and can operate at maximum chemical capacity. Coming in at number 14 is a plant that introduces a striking modern architectural element to your patio landscape: the allium. Belonging to the broader onion and garlic family, this remarkable flower is characterized by its perfectly spherical globe-like clusters of tiny purple or white blossoms that appear to magically levitate on top of tall, slender, leafless stalks. Thriving beautifully across USDA zones 3 through 9, the allium is a rugged, drought-tolerant survivor that grows from a subterranean bulb. When we look at the biological nightmare that is July, the primary issue is that mosquitoes aren't the only threat trying to infiltrate your patio. To completely secure your perimeter, you need a broad-spectrum disruption system. Alliums actively fight back by constantly producing a heavy, sulfur-based compound known as allicin. When a warm July breeze rustles through their tall stalks, or when you simply brush past them, they instantly release this pungent scent into the surrounding air, creating a dense cloud of botanical static. While it doesn't target mosquitoes as exclusively as some of our top-tier plants, this sulfur fog acts as a powerful general olfactory disruptor that severely weakens the sensory and navigational capabilities of any insect trying to cross into your territory. Your container strategy here is absolutely critical for the plant's survival. July is notorious for heavy, localized flash floods. If you plant allium bulbs directly into heavy clay garden soil, the rains will waterlog the dirt, causing the bulbs to rot. By planting them in deep, highly porous containers filled with fast-draining potting mix, you completely eliminate the risk of bulb rot while transforming the plant into a highly mobile sentry. The optimal placement for your potted alliums is around the extreme outer perimeter of your patio or deck. Because the sulfur scent is so potent, placing them on the absolute outer edge creates a formidable first line of defense. A chemical wall of confusion that intercepts pests before they ever get close to your guests. Securing the number 13 spot is a truly unique multi-purpose botanical wonder that should be mandatory on every American patio: the nasturtium. This fast-growing, sprawling plant is instantly recognizable by its perfectly round, miniature lily-pad-shaped leaves and its intensely vibrant jewel-toned blossoms in shades of blazing orange, crimson, and golden yellow. Beyond their beauty, every single part of the nasturtium is completely edible, offering a bright, peppery bite. While they thrive as perennials in the tropical warmth of USDA zones 9 through 11, they perform spectacularly as fast-growing summer annuals everywhere else in the country. To maintain an impenetrable anti-mosquito perimeter during a July outbreak, your essential oil-producing plants must remain in absolute peak condition. Nasturtiums serve the crucial, highly aggressive tactical role of the sacrificial decoy. In professional agricultural science, this is known as a trap crop. Nasturtiums counteract backyard threats by constantly secreting a sharp, intensely peppery, airborne chemical known as myrosinase. While this peppery scent masks the atmospheric profile of a human patio, its true superpower is that it is irresistibly attractive to parasitic garden pests, drawing them entirely away from your vulnerable, top-tier repelling herbs. The container strategy for nasturtiums is a brilliant lesson in botanical manipulation. If you plant nasturtiums in rich, heavily fertilized garden soil, they will grow massive leaves but absolutely zero flowers. By confining them to a small pot and intentionally filling it with poor, nutrient-deficient sandy soil, you physically stress the plant out. This biological stress forces the nasturtium into survival mode, rapidly pushing out dozens of highly pungent flowers, which contain the highest concentration of protective oils. By positioning this pot far away from your primary seating area, you deliberately draw the biological crossfire away from your guests. You are sacrificing the nasturtium to keep your patio completely clear, allowing your top-tier weapons to focus solely on destroying the mosquito swarm. At number 12, we have an ancient, deeply revered culinary and medicinal herb that doubles as a formidable biological weapon: sage. This classic garden staple is famous for its stunning, velvety, pale gray-green foliage and delicate spikes of pale purple flowers, emitting an incredibly rich, earthy, and slightly spicy aroma that is the cornerstone of holiday cooking. Sage is exceptionally hardy and performs brilliantly across a wide range of climates, perfectly suited for USDA zones 4 through 8. When evaluating the threat matrix of a July mosquito outbreak, we have to recognize that July is the absolute peak of the American backyard BBQ season. Mosquitoes are highly evolved thermal hunters. They are magnetically drawn to the radiant body heat and carbon dioxide of a large crowd of people gathered in one spot. Sage is the ultimate countermeasure because its protective essential oils are actually hyperactivated by exposure to high temperatures. The container strategy here is built entirely around tactical mobility. By growing your sage in a highly porous, breathable terracotta pot with excellent drainage, the plant thrives in the summer heat. More importantly, when the sun goes down and the mosquitoes emerge, you can physically drag this heavy terracotta pot right next to your heat source. The ideal placement for sage is immediately surrounding your charcoal grill, smoker, or your outdoor fire pit. The true magic happens when you actively utilize the plant. As the fire crackles, you simply reach down, snap off a handful of fuzzy sage leaves, and throw them directly onto the hot coals or open flames. The scientific community has heavily analyzed this exact practice. Comprehensive botanical research reveals that the essential oils trapped inside sage leaves are deeply concentrated with volatile compounds known as thujone and camphor. When the leaves are exposed to extreme heat and begin to smolder, these highly active chemical compounds are rapidly vaporized and carried into the air via the smoke. This heavily infused, camphor-rich smoke provides a highly effective localized mosquito repellent zone that rivals the chemical efficacy of commercial, store-bought mosquito coils, all without exposing your family to synthetic toxins. Taking the number 11 position is a sprawling, elegant, woody shrub that possesses the most intense, pure citrus fragrance in the entire botanical kingdom: lemon verbena, featuring long, slender, pale green leaves that look almost like willow branches. This plant is an absolute powerhouse of essential oil production. It thrives as a perennial in the deep heat of USDA zones 8 through 10, but is widely grown in large pots as a summer showpiece in cooler climates. To understand why lemon verbena is so critical, we must look at the atmospheric conditions of a late July evening. The air is often incredibly thick, stagnant, and highly humid, with practically zero breeze. Under these stagnant conditions, the heavy carbon dioxide that you exhale with every breath does not dissipate. It hangs in the air around you like a dense, invisible fog. Mosquitoes track this CO2 plume from hundreds of feet away. The lemon verbena is your ultimate defense because its blistering, hyper-concentrated lemon scent is sharp enough to physically cut through and shatter that stagnant CO2 fog. The container strategy is vital because this plant can grow quite large and requires massive amounts of direct, punishing sunlight to synthesize its oils. Yet it demands consistent deep watering during the midday heat. A large, heavy-duty resin container on casters allows you to control the soil moisture perfectly while keeping the plant mobile. Because it acts as a massive olfactory disruptor, the strategic placement of your lemon verbena is critical. You must position the heavy pot directly adjacent to your main patio doors, sliding glass windows, or right next to an outdoor oscillating fan. By placing it near a doorway or a fan, every gust of wind or artificial breeze will violently strip the lemon-scented oils from the leaves and blast them across your seating area. The scientific validation for this plant is staggering. According to detailed entomological research, lemon verbena contains a massive concentration of a compound called citronellol. Researchers have confirmed that this specific botanical molecule physically binds to the olfactory receptors located on the antennae of female mosquitoes. Once bonded, it severely disrupts the insect's ability to detect human exhalations and lactic acid, effectively shielding you from the swarm. Placing an outdoor fan near your lemon verbena to gently spread its pure citrus scent makes it a wonderful addition to your patio. Have you ever tried using fans outdoors to help keep mosquitoes away? Let me know your experience down in the comments. And if you are finding this list helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's move into the top 10. Breaking into the top 10 is a universally recognized, incredibly vigorous herb that practically explodes with bright, aggressive green growth, mint, characterized by its lightly serrated, vibrant leaves and its ability to rapidly conquer any space it occupies. Mint provides an instant cooling, icy sensation the second you brush against it. It is an incredibly resilient survivor, thriving effortlessly across USDA zones 3 through 8. When analyzing the biology of a July mosquito outbreak, we have to look at the aftermath of heavy summer storms. The torrential July rain leaves the ground heavily saturated, turning garden beds, lawn depressions, and drainage ditches into massive breeding grounds. While most repellent plants focus on chasing away adult mosquitoes in the air, mint gives you the ammunition to fight a two-front war. You can actually rip off a handful of mint leaves, crush them fiercely in your fist, and toss them directly into nearby puddles or standing water. The powerful crushed oils violently leach into the water, acting as a highly toxic biological larvicide that prevents mosquito eggs from ever hatching into adults. The container strategy for mint is not just a suggestion. It is an absolute, non-negotiable botanical law. Mint spreads via aggressive subterranean runners called rhizomes. If you plant it directly into your summer garden, it will violently invade the space, choking out every other plant you own. Cultivating mint in a sturdy, thick-walled container acts as a mandatory quarantine, allowing you to harness its massive volume of mosquito-repelling foliage while keeping its destructive root system safely imprisoned. Because mint thrives beautifully in the partial dappled shade of a hot July afternoon, the absolute best place to position these pots is down low, tucked under your patio benches, beneath your outdoor coffee tables, or lining the ground directly around your seating area. This protects your lower legs and ankles, which are notorious targets for low-flying mosquito species. The dual-action power of mint is backed by rigorous scientific literature. Peer-reviewed entomological articles have meticulously documented the efficacy of peppermint essential oils, which are heavily loaded with the active compounds menthol and pelargonium. Researchers conclusively proved that these specific compounds not only act as a highly effective spatial repellent against flying, adult mosquitoes, but they also exhibit extreme larvicidal properties, actively exterminating mosquito larvae on contact when introduced to standing water environments. Securing the number 9 position is a delicate, visually charming flower that hides a potent chemical secret beneath its soft exterior. The ageratum, commonly known as floss flower. This beautiful plant is famous for its dense, fuzzy clusters of tiny blossoms that look exactly like miniature soft blue or pale purple pom-poms, providing a spectacular, cool-toned visual contrast to the aggressive heat of summer. It is a highly adaptable plant, growing vigorously across a massive range from USDA zones 2 all the way to 11, making it a reliable summer staple across the entire United States. The biological reality of July is defined by its extreme, punishing ultraviolet UV radiation. During the peak of a July heatwave, the relentless UV index forces the vast majority of patio plants into a state of severe thermal shock, causing them to wilt, drop their leaves, and completely halt the production of their defensive essential oils. The ageratum, however, is a biological anomaly. It aggressively thrives under the blinding, unfiltered midday sun, actually utilizing the massive influx of solar radiation to supercharge its synthesis of insect-repelling chemicals. Your container strategy for ageratum is dictated by its physical anatomy. This plant possesses a highly fibrous, incredibly shallow root system that does not require deep, heavy pots. Therefore, ageratum is the absolute perfect candidate for shallow window boxes, narrow planter troughs, and small decorative bowls. Because you can grow them in these highly compact, shallow containers, you gain a massive tactical advantage in placement. You can easily lift and balance these lightweight pots directly onto narrow windowsills, along the thin ledge of a balcony railing, or across the top of a patio half-wall. By placing them on these elevated perches, you create a continuous, unbroken chemical barricade right at the exact flight altitude of a cruising mosquito. The scientific firepower contained within these soft blue flowers is deeply impressive. According to comprehensive botanical databases, the ageratum plant naturally synthesizes a highly complex chemical compound known as coumarin. This isn't just some old wives' tale. Coumarin is a scientifically proven, heavily weaponized botanical compound that is actively extracted, synthesized, and utilized by global chemical companies as a core active ingredient in a vast array of commercial, store-bought mosquito repellents and bug sprays. Taking the number 8 spot is an incredibly rugged, fiercely resilient Mediterranean herb that brings a touch of structural elegance to any patio. Rosemary. This beautiful woody perennial features stiff, needle-like leaves that are a deep glossy emerald green on top and a striking silvery white underneath, radiating an intoxicating, highly sophisticated aroma that perfectly blends sharp pine with bright, warm citrus. It is a legendary survivor, thriving as a massive woody evergreen shrub in the mild winters of USDA zones 7 through 10, while being grown extensively as a potted summer annual in cooler northern climates. To truly understand rosemary's value, we must look at the brutal climatic swings of July. The month is infamous for long, punishing periods of severe drought that bake the earth, suddenly interrupted by violent thunderstorms. This chaotic cycle of extreme dry and wet severely weakens the immune systems of delicate patio plants. Rosemary, however, is biologically engineered for the apocalypse. It actively prefers parched, bone-dry soil, and amazingly, the hotter and drier the July air becomes, the more aggressively the plant pumps its heavily scented pine-fresh oils into the atmosphere, perfectly masking the scent of human activity from starving mosquitoes. The container strategy is the absolute key to unlocking its power. You must plant rosemary in a thick, unglazed terracotta clay pot filled with a gritty, sandy, cactus-like soil mix. During a July afternoon, the terracotta violently absorbs the sun's thermal energy, physically baking the soil and the plant's roots from the outside in. This radiant heat acts like an essential oil warmer, forcing the rosemary to rapidly vaporize its defensive oils into the surrounding air. The ideal placement for this thermal-activated weapon is directly on top of your outdoor home office desk, next to your reading chair, or directly in the path of the prevailing afternoon wind to carry the heavy scent across the patio. The scientific backing for rosemary's defensive capabilities is absolutely undeniable. Landmark entomological studies evaluated the specific efficacy of rosemary's primary essential oil, a compound called eucalyptol. Researchers documented that when heavily extracted and applied, this specific compound achieved a highly significant protection rate against aggressive mosquito species responsible for transmitting diseases. By utilizing the terracotta baking method on your patio, your live rosemary bush acts as a natural, continuous thermal diffuser for this exact same weaponized chemical. Coming in at number 7 is a visually explosive, deeply captivating North American native plant that commands attention in any garden: bee balm, also scientifically known as monarda. This stunning perennial features highly unique, chaotic blooms that look exactly like miniature fireworks exploding at the top of tall, sturdy stems, erupting in brilliant shades of neon scarlet, deep magenta, and pale pink. It is an incredibly cold-hardy and heat-tolerant plant, performing magnificently across USDA zones 4 through 9. When analyzing the timeline of a July mosquito outbreak, the most dangerous period is the golden hour, the late afternoon and early evening, when the blistering heat begins to break and the shadows grow long. This is the exact moment when billions of mosquitoes emerge from the damp underbrush in a synchronized, desperate feeding frenzy. Bee balm is biologically synchronized to combat this exact threat. As the evening approaches and temperatures slightly drop, the plant begins to aggressively dump a massive payload of heavily scented citrus mint oils into the cooling air, creating a dense chemical fog that completely shatters the thermal and olfactory targeting sensors of the incoming mosquito swarm. The container strategy for bee balm is a masterful exercise in tactical misdirection. As the name implies, bee balm is an absolute magnet for essential pollinators, drawing in massive crowds of bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds. By planting it in a large, heavy-duty resin container, you gain the ability to physically control the flight paths of these insects. The strategic placement of this pot relies on the concept of a decoy. You absolutely must place the bee balm container at the far, distant corners of your patio or yard, as far away from your dining table as possible. This brilliantly draws the chaotic, buzzing traffic of the bees safely away from your guests, while simultaneously establishing a powerful mosquito-repelling perimeter at the outer edge of your property. The scientific authority behind bee balm's repelling power is well established. Horticultural experts have thoroughly analyzed the plant's chemical profile, confirming that bee balm actively synthesizes and heavily releases an essential oil known as geraniol. In rigorous laboratory testing, geraniol has been scientifically proven to be a significantly more potent, longer-lasting, and highly effective spatial repellent against mosquitoes than even standard citronella extract, making a bee balm a top-tier biological defense system. Securing the number 6 position is a plant that embodies the fierce, vibrant, unapologetic energy of the tropical summer. The lantana. This stunning, sprawling shrub is famous for its dense, spherical clusters of tiny, intricate flowers that possess the magical ability to dynamically shift their colors as they age, featuring breathtaking gradients of bright yellow, fiery orange, and deep magenta, all on the exact same blossom. It is an absolute powerhouse of a plant, thriving as a rugged perennial in the intense baking climates of USDA zones 8 through 11, and serving as a spectacular summer annual everywhere else. The biological reality of July is characterized by the oppressive heat dome effect, where high atmospheric pressure traps boiling, stagnant air close to the ground, turning your patio into a suffocating oven. While this thermal extreme causes most ornamental flowers to completely shut down and drop their blooms, the lantana acts as a biological anomaly. It violently thrives in this environment. The higher the mercury climbs, the more aggressively the lantana's rough, sandpaper-like leaves secrete a highly pungent, slightly acrid, intensely citrus-like aroma. This scent creates a toxic, invisible chemical envelope that completely devastates a mosquito's fragile neurological system. The container strategy for lantana is centered entirely around maximizing its exposure to solar radiation. Because this plant absolutely demands to be baked in 100-degree, full-throttle sunlight to produce its defensive oils, you must plant it in a massive heavy-duty container equipped with heavy caster wheels. This rolling container allows you to execute the perfect placement strategy. You physically chase the sun. As the shadows lengthen across your patio during the day, you simply roll the massive lantana bush directly into the most brutally bright, punishingly hot, unshaded spot available, ensuring the plant operates at maximum chemical output. The scientific evidence supporting the lantana's defensive firepower is highly documented. Extensive research projects meticulously analyze the chemical extracts derived from the leaves and the flowers of the Lantana chimera species. The researchers identified a massive concentration of a complex phytochemical known as caryophyllene. When extracted and tested against a variety of highly aggressive mosquito species, it delivered a highly significant repellency rate. By forcing your live lantana to bake in the extreme midday heat, you are triggering the plant to naturally vaporize this exact same chemical shield across your backyard. Disclaimer: while highly effective against mosquitoes, keep this plant out of reach of dogs and cats as it can be toxic if ingested. Thriving in the summer heat to naturally release its mosquito-repelling scent makes the lantana a very unique plant. Do you prefer growing sun-loving shrubs or delicate shade-loving flowers in your summer garden? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe before we continue. Breaking into the top 5 is an incredibly elegant, soft-textured perennial that brings a sweeping, romantic aesthetic to your defensive perimeter. Catmint. Officially known as Nepeta, this sprawling, vigorous plant features mounds of delicate, silvery gray foliage and shoots up dozens of tall, airy spikes completely covered in ethereal, lavender blue flowers that bloom relentlessly throughout the summer. It is a remarkably tough, drought-resistant survivor, growing effortlessly across the massive temperature fluctuations of USDA zones 3 through 9. To understand the critical role of catmint, we must look at the specific physics of a July mosquito outbreak. July is notoriously humid, meaning the air is heavily saturated with water vapor. The botanical compounds responsible for repelling insects have a specific molecular weight. In the thick, heavy humidity of July, the defensive oils released by catmint do not quickly evaporate into the upper atmosphere. Instead, they sink and hang suspended in the damp air just a few feet off the ground. This creates a dense, low-hanging chemical smog shelly at the cruising altitude of mosquitoes, launching their attacks from the lawn. The container strategy for catmint transforms it from a simple plant into a structural blockade. Because catmint has an incredibly robust, sprawling root system that loves to cascade outward, you should abandon round pots and plant it exclusively in long, rectangular planter boxes. By lining up multiple rectangular planter boxes end to end, you create a seamless, unbroken physical and chemical wall. The absolute best placement for these boxes is directly along the extreme outer edge of your patio decking, bordering your lawn, or lining the top of your balcony railing. This creates a fortified, low-level barrier that effectively blocks the primary flight paths of mosquitoes trying to infiltrate your seating area from the grass. The scientific revelation surrounding catmint is arguably one of the most famous discoveries in modern botanical entomology. During a highly publicized landmark presentation at the annual national meeting of the American Chemical Society, ACS, a team of specialized entomologists from Iowa State University presented shocking data. They isolated the primary active compound in catmint, known as nepetalactone, and subjected it to rigorous spatial repellency testing. The resulting data conclusively proved that natural nepetalactone is an astonishing 10 times more effective at repelling mosquitoes in laboratory settings than DEET, the synthetic chemical that serves as the foundation for the entire commercial bug spray industry. Taking the number 4 spot is a flower of immense classical beauty and historical significance, renowned for possessing a formidable botanical secret. We need to make a massive botanical clarification here. You have likely heard that chrysanthemums or mums repel bugs. While traditional tightly packed autumn mums are celebrated for their colors, we must look at a highly specific weaponized variety to fight mosquitoes, the pyrethrum daisy, officially known as Chrysanthemum cinerariifolium. They spend the entirety of the hot July summer rapidly developing a massive dense canopy of highly aromatic foliage, thriving beautifully across USDA zones 5 through 9. When analyzing the tactical behavior of a mosquito swarm during a July outbreak, we find that mosquitoes are highly susceptible to dehydration. During the blinding heat of the midday sun, the swarm must find immediate shelter, heavily congregating in the cool, dark, damp shadows directly surrounding the exterior doors, foundational cracks, and entryways of your home. The pyrethrum daisy is your ultimate biological countermeasure to defend these vulnerable choke points. It naturally synthesizes pyrethrins, a class of complex compounds that function as devastating neurotoxins to insects, with the absolute highest concentrations packed directly into their blooming flower heads. The container strategy here is built around defending the most vulnerable entryways of your property. Because these daisies require impeccably fast-draining soil and a heavy, consistent supply of rich organic nutrients, large, deep, high-quality ceramic or resin pots are mandatory. You must place 2 massive, heavily foliated pots of pyrethrum daisies directly flanking both sides of your front door, your back patio slider, and your garage entryway. This strategic placement creates an invisible, localized checkpoint. When mosquitoes approach these shadowy thresholds to hide, their olfactory receptors detect the pyrethrin barrier. Their survival instincts trigger an immediate panicked retreat, completely preventing them from rushing inside the house the second you open the door. The repelling power of this specific flower is a cornerstone of global pest control. Pyrethrins are recognized as one of the most effective botanical defenses in existence. In fact, this natural compound is so overwhelmingly powerful that it is heavily extracted, concentrated, and utilized as the primary active killing agent in almost every single brand of commercial mosquito coil, fogger, and aerosol bug spray manufactured on the planet. By placing these specific daisies at your doors, you are deploying the raw, natural source of the industry's ultimate weapon. Securing the number 3 position is a highly specialized, genetically fascinating plant that has rightfully earned the legendary moniker of the mosquito plant. The Citrosa geranium. Officially classified as Pelargonium citrusum, this stunning upright plant features deeply lobed, vibrantly green leaves with aggressively serrated edges, accented by beautiful, delicate clusters of pink and purple blooms. It thrives as a heat-loving perennial in the tropical environments of USDA zones 9 through 11, and is universally deployed as a highly prized, fast-growing summer potted plant across the rest of the country. To truly appreciate its power, we have to expose a major botanical reality here. Nurseries market this plant as a magical standalone mosquito shield. However, rigorous scientific studies from agricultural academics, including the University of Florida, have proven that just sitting quietly in a pot on your patio, this plant does absolutely nothing to deter mosquitoes. So why is it at number 3? Because of its massive, weaponized potential. The Citrosa geranium is biologically engineered to act like a chemical frag grenade. Every single square inch, square inch of its deeply lobed leaves is covered in millions of microscopic hair-like structures called trichomes, which are completely engorged with blistering, highly volatile essential oils containing citronellol. The container strategy is all about maximizing proximity to the target. Because this specific geranium prefers bright morning sun but demands protective shade during the blistering afternoon, a medium-sized ceramic pot is perfect. You must use this plant as the absolute centerpiece of your outdoor setup. By placing the pot directly into the dead center of your patio dining table, you position the chemical deterrent directly inside the human CO2 cloud. As you and your guests sit down, you deliberately brush your hands aggressively through the foliage. This physical friction violently ruptures those microscopic trichomes, instantly flooding the immediate dining area with a heavy, overpowering citrus fog that completely jams the radar of any incoming mosquito. Capturing the runner-up position at number 2 is an incredibly cheerful, fiercely resilient, and famously pungent workhorse of the summer garden, the marigold. Known for their tightly ruffled, heavily textured petals that explode in blinding neon shades of fiery orange, golden yellow, and deep rusty red, marigolds are the absolute definition of summer endurance. They are remarkably cheap, wildly abundant, and grow with absolute explosive vigor across an enormous range, thriving from the frigid borders of USDA Zone 2 all the way down to the tropical heat of Zone 11. The biological reality of a July outbreak is heavily tied to the ground temperature. During peak summer, the surface of your patio decking and the surrounding concrete pathways absorb massive amounts of solar radiation, radiating a blistering oven-like heat from the ground up. Instead of wilting under this thermal assault, the marigold utilizes this radiant ground heat to rapidly vaporize the thick, pungent, highly characteristic oils stored deep within its roots, stems, and heavy flowers, creating a violent updraft of toxic botanical vapor that mosquitoes refuse to fly through. The container strategy for marigolds relies on the military tactic of overwhelming numbers. Because they have a relatively small, highly adaptable root system and cost practically nothing, you should completely abandon the idea of one large pot. Instead, you must plant marigolds into a massive fleet of dozens of small, shallow, inexpensive terracotta or plastic bowls. This allows you to execute a flawless placement strategy, the closed perimeter. You take this fleet of small pots and arrange them end to end, creating a literal, unbroken ring directly on the ground, completely encircling your patio chairs, your fire pit, or your outdoor sofa. You are essentially building a low-level chemical moat that pests will not cross. The scientific breakdown of this pungent defense is fascinating. Advanced botanical and chemical analysis has successfully isolated the specific defensive compounds excreted by both the root system and the floral heads of the marigold. Scientists discovered heavy, highly active concentrations of two potent chemicals, limonene and thiophanase. It is concluded that this specific highly volatile chemical cocktail creates a highly toxic localized airspace. When a mosquito's neurological system detects the thiophanase in the air, its brain registers the area as a catastrophic biological hazard, violently forcing the insect to reverse its flight path and completely abandon the area. Taking the absolute undisputed crown at the #1 spot on our countdown is a plant that represents the global pinnacle of botanical luxury, beauty, and biological defense: lavender. This instantly recognizable, legendary Mediterranean herb is famous for its stunning upright wands of vivid purple blossoms, its elegant silvery gray foliage, and above all, its deeply intoxicating, pure, and incredibly relaxing fragrance. It is a rugged, woody survivor that laughs at the blistering heat, thriving beautifully across USDA zones 5 through 9. When we look at the ultimate misery of a July mosquito outbreak, the absolute worst aspect isn't the daytime bites. It's the hot, sticky, sleepless July nights, where the high-pitched, maddening whine of a single mosquito hovering near your ear completely destroys your ability to rest. Lavender is the ultimate biological weapon, because it is the only plant on this list capable of performing two completely opposing biological functions simultaneously. It forcefully induces a state of deep neurological calm in humans, while simultaneously executing a devastating sensory overload attack on the respiratory and olfactory systems of mosquitoes. The container strategy for lavender is a matter of life and death for the plant. Lavender violently despises sitting in stagnant water. If you plant it in heavy garden soil during the July rains, it will drown and rot in days. You must plant it in a specialized container filled with an extremely porous, highly gritty, fast-draining soil mix, almost identical to what you would use for a desert cactus, to ensure the roots stay dry and the plant continues to pump out its massive payload of essential oils under the scorching sun. Because lavender thrives in pots, it offers the ultimate placement strategy: personalized, 24-hour mobile protection. During the day, you place the pot directly next to your patio sun lounger to bathe in its protective aura. When the sun sets, you physically pick the pot up, carry it inside, and place it directly on your bedroom windowsill. Just ensure your window is slightly cracked open to provide a warm night breeze. This breeze not only blows the scent over your bed for a flawless, bite-free night of sleep, but it also provides the essential airflow the lavender needs to prevent fungal diseases from indoor humidity. The scientific mechanics of this dual-action power are incredible. According to comprehensive horticultural data and entomological research, lavender contains staggeringly high concentrations of two highly active compounds, linalool and linaloyl acetate. While these compounds bind to human receptors to lower blood pressure and reduce anxiety, they act as a catastrophic system overload for mosquitoes. The linalool violently binds to the insect's olfactory receptors and refuses to let go, completely short-circuiting their ability to smell, navigate, or detect a blood meal, effectively blinding them and rendering them completely harmless. That wraps up our list of the 15 best container flowers that repel mosquitoes during July outbreaks. Which of these varieties makes the most sense for your space? Did I leave out a mosquito-repelling plant that you've already had success with? Let me know in the comments below, along with what gardening topics you want me to cover next. If you found this video practical and helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more guides, and I will see you in the next video. Happy growing!
How would you react if I told you there is a delicate bloom that tastes exactly like a freshly shucked raw oyster? Another bud that delivers a sinus-clearing shock of premium Japanese wasabi, and a bizarre flower capable of jolting your tongue like licking a 9-volt battery. Forget those boring pots of basil on your porch, because today we are exploring the list of 15 rare edible flowers that taste like fine herbs for small pots. These spectacular botanical illusions aren't just luxurious culinary secrets kept by Michelin-starred chefs and elite bartenders. They are incredibly easy to grow and can perfectly thrive in small pots right in your own backyard garden. Make sure to watch until the very last flower. You will be absolutely mind-blown by what it can do. Let's get started.
Kicking off our countdown at number 15 is a delicate culinary masterpiece that most standard backyard gardeners misunderstand: coriander blossoms. Many Americans pull out and discard their cilantro plants the moment they begin bolting and shooting up tall stalks. However, if you let them grow, those tiny delicate white flowers become a premium microherb. They offer a refined, mellow cilantro flavor perfectly blended with the sharp, cooling zest of a fresh tangerine peel. To cultivate these successfully on a small patio, you need a deep 6-inch plastic container. Plastic is favored here to keep the root zone cool and consistently moist, preventing premature heat stress. Fill the container with a rich, moisture-retaining potting soil. When the summer weather arrives, the plant will automatically trigger its bolting phase, rapidly shooting up tall architectural stalks crowned with lacy white blooms. The overall growth time from seed to flower takes roughly 50 days. You will want to harvest by using micro shears to delicately snip the tiny flower clusters scattered across the canopy. You can enjoy a continuous rolling harvest for 2 to 3 solid weeks. In the American culinary scene, these blossoms are exceptional when scattered over authentic street tacos or gently folded into a chilled, citrus-heavy seafood ceviche. Backing up their refined flavor profile, biochemical studies published in the Journal of Food Science confirm that coriander flowers contain significantly higher concentrations of linalool compared to the green leaves. Linalool is the volatile compound responsible for creating that bright, citrusy aroma, which scientifically explains why the blossoms taste elegantly floral and less pungent than the standard foliage. Finally, here is a fascinating biological fact. A large portion of the American population possesses a specific genetic mutation that causes their brains to perceive regular cilantro leaves as tasting like dish soap. However, because the essential oil structure fundamentally changes when the plant transitions into its flowering stage, many of those exact same people can eat and enjoy coriander blossoms without experiencing that soapy aftertaste. Coming in at number 14 is a stunning, heavily clustered bloom known as the garlic chive blossom, scientifically known as Allium tuberosum. These beautiful star-shaped white flower clusters carry an intense, heavy garlic punch that delivers an immediate savory hit without leaving any lingering bitter aftertaste on your palate. For container cultivation, you will want to utilize a standard 1-gallon plastic or terracotta pot. Garlic chives grow into a dense, tightly packed clump, so providing them with a highly aerated, well-draining soil mix is critical to prevent their bulbous roots from rotting. They are sun seekers, so position your container in an area receiving full, unobstructed sunlight. The growth cycle requires patience. It takes approximately 60 to 70 days for the bright green stalks to push upward and form their brilliant white flower heads. To capture their peak flavor, you must harvest by cutting the entire rigid flower stem right at the base the moment the buds begin to burst open, trapping maximum essential oils. In terms of culinary applications, urban farmers highly prize these blossoms for mincing into compound butter, to melt over a grilled steak, or scattering them across a loaded baked potato. To validate their intense flavor profile, an extensive phytochemical analysis published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry scientifically confirmed that garlic chive blossoms contain dense vaults of allicin. This is the naturally occurring potent antibacterial compound that creates the sharp heat and savory depth found in raw garlic cloves. As a fascinating bonus fact for patio gardeners, these stunning blossoms act as effective biological bodyguards for your entire container garden. The sulfur and garlic vapor radiating from the flowers acts as a magnetic beacon for friendly pollinating bees, while simultaneously acting as a natural deterrent that drives destructive aphids away from your vulnerable patio plants. At number 13, we have a departure from traditional garden bedding plants, the highly coveted lemon gem marigold. Unlike the large, pungent pom-pom marigolds you see at the hardware store, this is a rare, single-bloom variety that produces hundreds of tiny, delicate yellow flowers. The flavor is a revelation, delivering a sophisticated hybrid taste combining bright, acidic lemon zest with the earthy, warm notes of French tarragon. Because they develop a compact, bushy structure, a standard rectangular plastic window box is the perfect container setup. You must fill it with a sandy, fast-draining potting soil, as these plants are hardy, drought-tolerant survivors that dislike sitting in wet mud. The growth speed is impressive, with the plant developing a dense canopy of vibrant yellow blooms in just 55 days. To harvest, you simply step out onto your patio and pinch off the individual tiny flowers daily throughout the sweltering summer. In the modern American farm-to-table culinary scene, these bright blossoms are considered a luxury garnish. They are perfect for decorating a fillet of cedar plank grilled salmon or tossing into a fresh summer shrimp salad for an acidic bite. Backing up this incredible flavor profile, comprehensive botanical research published in the journal Phytochemistry verified that the petals of the lemon gem marigold are heavily packed with two specific chemical compounds, biophenese and limonene. This specific chemical synergy creates the razor-sharp citrus flavor, while simultaneously acting as a natural digestive aid for the human stomach. For an interesting historical fact, during the colonial era of the United States, homesteaders utilized the dried, pulverized petals of this specific marigold species as an effective, cheap substitute for expensive imported saffron, using it to naturally dye their winter soups and stews a glowing golden yellow. Sliding into number 12 is a unique, historical herb largely forgotten by modern agriculture, the salad burnet. This plant produces striking crimson-red globe-shaped flower buds that look like tiny medieval maces. However, their appearance hides a refreshing flavor profile that tastes like a crisp ice-cold cucumber perfectly blended with a subtle, cooling hint of fresh mint. Because salad burnet develops a long, delicate taproot, you need an 8-inch deep container to provide adequate downward space. The soil requirements are strict. You must use a sandy, rocky potting mix that drains water instantly, perfectly mimicking the dry, arid limestone cliffs where this plant originally evolved. The plant takes its time establishing its roots, requiring about 70 days for the flower stalks to reach their peak. The golden rule for harvesting is to use sharp micro-shears to snip the globe-shaped buds the day they transition from green to a deep brick red color. In terms of modern culinary usage, American mixologists love this plant. The flowers are perfect for dropping into high-end summer gin cocktails, muddling into a large pitcher of southern iced tea, or scattering over a fresh cucumber in feta salad. Providing rigorous scientific evidence for its benefits, a detailed pharmacological report published in the Journal of Medicinal Food verified that salad burnet flowers contained highly concentrated levels of caffeic acid. This specific naturally occurring antioxidant is medically shown to protect human cellular structures from oxidative heat stress during blistering summer weather. For a fascinating historical fact regarding its American heritage, George Washington, the very first president of the United States, was a fanatic for the crisp, cucumber flavor of salad burnet. Historical estate records prove he cultivated large beds of this specific flowering herb across his legendary Mount Vernon plantation. At number 11 is a delicate cascading plant that many assume is just a cheap decorative border, sweet alyssum. While its billowing clouds of tiny white flowers smell like sweet honey, popping a handful into your mouth delivers a flavor explosion that tastes like sharp, spicy mustard and cracked black pepper. Because this plant naturally wants to trail, spill, and cascade downward, it is the ideal candidate for a hanging basket or a shallow 4-inch patio pot. You can use standard moisture-retaining potting soil, as this plant is forgiving and adaptable to small spaces. The growth rate is phenomenally fast. It takes only 45 to 50 days for the tiny seeds to transform into a spilling canopy of white blossoms. To harvest, you can simply use scissors to shear off the top layer of flowers. The plant thrives on this treatment and will rapidly push out a new, thicker flush of spicy blooms within days. In the kitchen, these tiny peppery blossoms are a secret weapon. They are perfect for scattering over a plate of sunny-side-up eggs, folding into a rich mayonnaise-heavy American potato salad, or using as a sharp contrast on a savory charcuterie board. Backing up this flavor profile, a detailed plant physiology report published in the journal Plant Physiology confirmed that alyssum flowers synthesize high amounts of glucosinolates. This is the exact same highly volatile sulfur-based chemical compound that biologically creates the sharp, nose-clearing heat found in raw horseradish, mustard greens, and spicy kale. Here is a highly practical fun fact for your patio garden. In the American commercial agriculture industry, sweet alyssum is deployed as a biological trap crop. The sweet honey scent of the flowers acts as a magnet for predatory hoverflies, which will immediately land on your patio and hunt down destructive aphids trying to attack your other potted vegetables.
Are you surprised by this tiny flower's power to guard your garden against aphids while packing a sharp, mustard-like punch? If you found this information useful, please take just a second to hit that like button and subscribe to support our channel. And don't take your eyes off the screen, because right now we are officially entering our top 10, featuring even crazier flavor illusions. Let's keep the countdown going.
Breaking into the top 10 is a masterpiece of botanical breeding, the African blue basil blossom. This stunning, deeply structural plant produces towering purple-pink flower spikes that deliver a complex flavor profile. It is a perfect collision of sharp camphor, warm bay clove, and traditional sweet basil. Because this plant grows into a large woody shrub, you must provide it with a large, 2-gallon plastic container filled with rich, compost-heavy soil to support its hearty appetite. Here is the most critical planting rule you will ever learn. You cannot grow this plant from seeds. It is a sterile genetic hybrid, meaning you must cultivate it by rooting a live stem cutting in water. Once planted, the growth is fast. It takes roughly 40 days from a rooted cutting for the plant to push up its first purple flower spikes. Because the plant is sterile, it cannot produce seeds to complete its life cycle. Therefore, it will never stop blooming. You can harvest generous handfuls of these purple flowers every single week, and the plant will consistently replace them until the winter frost kills it. In the kitchen, these heavily perfumed flowers are phenomenal when pulverized into a vibrant purple pesto sauce or used as an aromatic, savory garnish over a large bowl of spicy Italian pasta. Validating its sharp, unique taste, a comprehensive biochemical profile published in Hort Science confirmed that this specific basil hybrid contains an unprecedented concentration of natural camphor. This highly volatile organic compound creates an intense, cooling sensation that directly stimulates and slightly numbs the human olfactory nerves, creating an unforgettable culinary experience. Because of its genetic inability to ever produce seeds, this sterile hybrid is biologically forced to channel its internal energy into the endlessly pushing out abundant, fragrant purple flowers. Coming in at number 9 are the delicate, flavorful arugula blossoms. Most people only eat the green leaves, ignoring the fact that when the plant bolts, it produces stunning cross-shaped white flowers with deep, dark purple veins. The flavor of these rare blossoms is spectacular, offering a deep, savory, roasted, nutty flavor that instantly finishes with a sharp, peppery bite. For patio container gardening, a standard 6-inch deep plastic pot is perfectly adequate. However, the secret to extending the flowering life cycle of arugula is strategic placement. You must place the container in partial shade. If you leave it in full-day sunlight, the plant will burn out and quickly drop its flowers. The growth cycle takes roughly 40 to 45 days. As the green leaves begin to turn tough and bitter, the central stalk will rocket upward to display the blooms. You must harvest these delicate flowers exclusively in the very early morning, exactly when the morning dew begins to evaporate, to ensure the petals are crisp and heavily saturated with essential oils. In modern American high-end pizzerias, arugula blossoms are treated as a premium finishing topping for wood-fired pizzas, and they are legendary when scattered over a creamy goat cheese and walnut salad. To scientifically explain this spicy heat, an extensive chemical analysis published in the journal Food Chemistry identified that arugula flowers contain dense vaults of a specific chemical called erucin. When your teeth crush the delicate petals, this compound releases a volatile mustard gas inside your mouth, creating that signature peppery kick. For a wild historical fact, during the height of the ancient Roman Empire, the cultivation of arugula flowers was legally banned inside monastery gardens. Roman authorities believed that the spicy heat of the flower acted as a potent aphrodisiac. At number 8, we have an incredibly striking architectural powerhouse, the bronze fennel blossom. This towering plant features dark, smoky, bronze-colored, feather-like foliage that eventually erupts into large, umbrella-shaped clusters of tiny, brilliant yellow flowers. The flavor is a masterclass in natural sweetness, delivering the pure taste of black licorice and warm, soothing anise without a single grain of sugar. Because bronze fennel naturally develops a deep penetrating taproot, standard shallow pots will kill it. You must use a deep 3-gallon plastic container or a heavy fabric grow bag. Fill the container with a highly aerated, well-draining potting soil and position it in the most sun-exposed location your patio has to offer. The growth process is a marathon, taking roughly 65 to 70 days for the plant to push up its large yellow flower canopies. The golden rule for harvesting is to use heavy shears to cleanly cut the entire yellow flower umbrella right before the tiny blossoms begin to dry out and transition into hard seeds. In American gastronomy, these sweet, aromatic flowers are the ultimate pairing for high-end seafood. They are legendary when used as a flavorful resting bed for a cedar plank grilled salmon or finely chopped to season a slow-roasted pork shoulder. To validate its sugar-free sweetness, a detailed essential oil extraction studies published in the Journal of Essential Oil Research confirmed that bronze fennel flowers are overloaded with a chemical compound known as anethole. From a biochemical standpoint, anethole binds to the sweet receptors on the human tongue and registers as being roughly 30 times sweeter than standard processed sucrose sugar. Finally, a brilliant ecological fact for American gardeners: placing a large pot of bronze fennel on your patio acts as a haven for the iconic swallowtail butterfly, providing the essential habitat required for them to lay their eggs and sustain their population. Sliding into number 7 is a fragrant, resilient native plant known as anise hyssop. This stunning herb produces tall spikes of vibrant neon purple tubular flowers that radiate a heavy, intoxicating aroma. The flavor profile is a complex, sophisticated blend of deep, sweet black licorice, instantly followed by the sharp, refreshing rush of wild mint. For container cultivation, a standard 2-gallon plastic or terracotta pot is highly recommended. This plant is easy to grow from raw seed and is a rugged survivor. It requires a standard well-draining potting mix and is famously known for its high tolerance to both drought and high heat summer weather. The growth cycle takes about 70 to 80 days for the plant to fully construct its towering purple flower spikes. To harvest, you simply pinch the base of the purple spike and pull your fingers upward, cleanly stripping hundreds of the tiny sweet purple florets directly off the main stem. In terms of culinary applications, American urban farmers prize these sweet flowers for rubbing into a rack of BBQ pork ribs before smoking, baking into delicate summer fruit tarts, or steeping in boiling water to create a soothing, naturally sweet herbal tea. Backing up its historical medicinal usage, a comprehensive pharmacological review published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology verified that anise hyssop flowers contain high concentrated levels of rosmarinic acid. This specific organic compound is a powerful, naturally occurring anti-inflammatory agent that physically coats and soothes severe irritation inside the human respiratory tract and throat. For a fascinating piece of heritage, anise hyssop is one of the very few pure herbs native specifically to the North American continent. Native American tribes cultivated and utilized these exact purple flowers as their primary natural sweetener and cough medicine for thousands of years before European settlers ever arrived. At number 6 is the ideal, heat-proof solution for frustrated southern gardeners, the Mexican mint marigold, widely known in the agriculture community as Texas tarragon. If you love the sophisticated, warm, licorice-like flavor of traditional French tarragon, but live in an area with hot summer heat that kills delicate European herbs, this plant is your savior. It produces beautiful, tiny golden yellow flowers that deliver the identical flavor of premium French tarragon, but thrives perfectly under the scorching sun. A 1 to 2 gallon pot is perfectly adequate for this compact, structural bush. The key to intensifying the flavor of this specific plant is to enforce slight environmental stress. Use a highly sandy, fast-draining soil mix and allow the soil to dry out completely between waterings. The hotter and drier the environment, the more the plant will pump its essential oils directly into the flowers. It takes roughly 60 to 70 days to mature. You will want to harvest by actively pinching off the tiny yellow flower clusters at the very end of the summer, precisely when their internal oil production reaches its concentrated peak. In the American kitchen, these yellow blossoms are a non-negotiable requirement for whisking into a rich, butter-heavy béarnaise sauce to pour over a steak, or chopping to elevate a classic mayonnaise-based southern chicken salad. Validating this incredible flavor mimicry, chemical analysis published in the botanical journal Phytochemistry proved that Mexican mint marigold synthesizes high amounts of estragol. This is the same specific chemical compound that creates the signature, warm licorice flavor in true French tarragon, proving this plant is a perfect biological flavor clone. For an interesting historical fact, long before the Spanish conquistadors arrived, the Aztec Empire cultivated these exact yellow flowers to spice and flavor their ceremonial, boiling hot chocolate drinks during religious rituals.
Are you impressed by the 10 flowers we just covered? Have you grown any of the varieties on this list yet? Let me know down in the comments below. And now, take a deep breath, because we are entering the top 5. Home to the bud with a sinus-clearing wasabi kick, the flower that tastes like ocean oysters, and the mouth-shocking final boss. Let's see what they are.
Breaking into the top 5 is a rare, visually stunning heirloom variety, known as the Empress of India nasturtium. This plant defies the standard expectation of sweet, edible flowers. It features a dark, almost black-green, lily pad-like foliage that contrasts against its blood-red, velvet-textured flowers. Taking a bite of this gorgeous red blossom delivers an immediate sinus-clearing kick of heat that tastes like freshly grated premium Japanese wasabi. Because this plant loves to trail and cascade, A long rectangular window box or an elevated hanging basket is the perfect container setup. Here is the most counterintuitive gardening rule you will ever learn. You must plant these in the poorest quality dirt you can find. If you give nasturtiums rich, high-quality compost, they will turn into a jungle of green leaves and refuse to produce a single flower. They require biological starvation to bloom. It takes roughly 55 to 60 days for the brilliant red flowers to punch through the dark canopy. To harvest, simply snap the entire red blossom off the stem and eat it raw. In high-end culinary applications, these spicy flowers are the ultimate pairing for a raw premium beef steak tartare, or used whole to add a spicy crunch to an upscale summer salad. To scientifically validate its health benefits, nutritional profiling published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition confirmed that these dark red flowers contain a concentrated payload of lutein, an antioxidant biologically critical for protecting the human retina, alongside extreme levels of raw vitamin C. As a mesmerizing fun fact, the surface of both the leaves and the petals are biologically structured to be superhydrophobic. When you water the plant, the liquid cannot absorb. It beads up into perfect glass-like spheres that rapidly roll off the plant, leaving it bone dry. At number 4 is a fragrant sensory illusion. The pineapple sage blossom. This towering, sprawling shrub produces tall spikes of long, tubular, vibrant, neon red flowers. When you crush these red flowers between your fingers or bite into them, your brain is instantly hit with the undeniable aroma and flavor of a freshly sliced, ripe tropical pineapple, perfectly balanced with the earthy warmth of traditional sage. Because this plant rapidly grows into a large woody bush, you must provide it with a heavy 3-gallon plastic or terracotta container. The root system is thirsty, so you must fill the pot with a highly moisture-retaining potting mix and consistently water it under the hot summer sun. This is a very slow late-season bloomer. It takes 90 days of patient cultivation before the plant finally triggers its flowering cycle, usually developing a dense canopy of bright red blooms at the very end of summer or early autumn. You harvest by simply pulling the individual, bright red tubular flowers directly out of their green calyxes. American mixologists love this flower, muddling generous handfuls of the red blossoms to create delicious tropical mojitos, or folding them into a fresh acidic fruit salsa to perfectly complement a heavy, slow-roasted chicken. To explain this incredible flavor phenomenon, advanced chemical profiling published in the Journal of Essential Oil Research discovered that the plant synthesizes a specific ratio of linalool and limonene compounds. When these two specific chemicals hit your olfactory nerves simultaneously, they create a biological sensory hack, causing your brain to perceive the flavor of a tropical pineapple. For a stunning ecological fact, in the United States, migrating ruby-throated hummingbirds literally base the timing of their long autumn migration south upon the specific blooming schedule of these red flowers to guarantee a high-sugar fuel source along their journey. Coming in at number 3 is a practical, problem-solving plant known as society garlic. Scientifically named Tulbaghia violacea, this rugged plant shoots up tall, elegant stems crowned with large clusters of delicate, lilac purple, bell-shaped flowers. The flavor is a culinary miracle. It delivers the savory, mouth-watering taste of deeply roasted garlic, but eliminates the sharp, burning heat and the lingering bad breath that usually follows. For container cultivation, a 6-inch deep plastic pod is perfectly adequate. This plant grows from a specialized, thick underground rhizome, and it is universally recognized as one of the most hardy, drought-tolerant plants you can put on a patio. It prefers a sandy, fast-draining soil mix and demands the most sun-exposed location you can provide. It takes roughly 75 days for the rhizomes to push up their towering purple flower heads. To harvest, use sharp scissors to cleanly snip the entire purple, tubular cluster directly off the main stalk, just as the tiny bells open. In the American kitchen, urban farmers utilize these purple flowers for scattering over soft, buttered scrambled eggs, mashing into a loaf of toasted garlic bread, or using as a savory garnish floating on a bowl of potato cream soup. To scientifically explain this breath-saving miracle, an advanced biochemical breakdown published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry confirmed that while society garlic contains the same savory, sulfur-based flavor compounds as real garlic, it lacks a very specific, highly reactive enzyme, specific highly tough. Because it is missing this enzyme, the sulfur cannot chemically bond to the tissues in your throat and lungs, eliminating chronic halitosis. For an amusing historical fact, early Dutch settlers in South Africa intentionally named this plant society garlic because it was the only highly flavored, savory spice you could consume in large quantities and still confidently attend high society evening dances without offending the other guests with your breath. Taking the silver medal at number 2 is a rare and highly sought-after coastal plant known as the oyster leaf. This low-growing, sprawling maritime plant produces stunning, bright blue, bell-shaped flowers and thick, fleshy leaves. Taking a bite of these blue flowers is a surprising culinary experience. They possess a briny, salty flavor that closely mimics the taste of a premium, freshly shucked ocean oyster. Because this is a strictly maritime plant, the container requirements break standard rules of gardening. You need a wide, shallow, 8-inch deep pot. You cannot use standard potting soil. You must build a custom mix consisting of 70% heavy construction sand and coarse gravel. The plant natively grows on cold, rocky beaches, so you must keep the container in the coolest, shaded corner of your patio, protecting it from the harsh afternoon sun. It is a slow, methodical grower, taking about 80 days to fully establish its root system and push out its stunning blue flowers. You must harvest these flowers with gentle care, as the petals are incredibly fragile and easily bruised. In the modern culinary world, this plant is a superstar. It is utilized to elevate premium seafood dishes, or incredibly, used by high-end chefs to simulate the briny taste of the ocean in strictly vegan, plant-based seafood recipes. To prove this flavor clone, a detailed chemical analysis published in the journal Food Chemistry confirmed that the oyster leaf naturally synthesizes high, concentrated levels of dimethyl sulfide, or DMS. This is the identical specific chemical compound emitted by algae and ocean water that biologically creates the signature smell of the sea and the flavor profile of raw mollusks. Because of its extreme rarity and difficulty to source, American urban farmers are currently growing and selling these tiny blue flowers directly to Michelin-star vegan restaurants for a staggering premium. Taking the crown at number 1 is a wild, unforgettable culinary experience you can grow in a pot. The buzz button. Also known commercially as the Szechuan button, this plant produces unique, cone-shaped dark yellow flower heads that lack any actual petals. The flavor profile starts with a bright herbal citrus note, but within seconds, it triggers a distinct physical tingling sensation inside your mouth. It causes your entire tongue and gums to vibrate and go numb, much like chewing on a handful of popping candy while licking a 9-volt battery. For container cultivation, a standard 1-gallon plastic pot is perfectly adequate. The plant is a heat seeker and a heavy drinker. You must fill the pot with a moisture-retaining compost-heavy soil mix and place it in the most sun-scorched hot location on your patio. It grows incredibly fast, continuously producing dozens of yellow cone flowers. After just 60 to 70 days, you harvest the plant by simply pinching off the dark yellow, thimble-shaped buds the moment they reach the size of a standard pencil eraser. The culinary application for this flower is legendary in the American craft cocktail scene. High-end mixologists muddle these yellow buttons directly into custom margaritas to numb the drinker's mouth, altering and amplifying the taste of the alcohol. Or they are served alongside Asian American fusion BBQ to stimulate the palate. To explain this physical reaction, advanced neurological research published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology verified that buzz buttons contain highly concentrated levels of an active biochemical called spilanthol. This chemical physically penetrates the tissues of your mouth and directly stimulates the trigeminal nerve pathways, causing your brain to perceive a vibrating electrical current. Because of the unmatched novelty and extreme rarity of this specific plant, urban microfarmers across America are currently cultivating these in small patio pots and selling them directly to elite cocktail bars for a remarkable price of up to $1 for a single, tiny flower bud. And just like that, we have explored 15 rare edible flowers that taste like fine herbs for small pots together, from gentle, refined flavors to the numbing electric shock at the number 1 spot. Which flower from today's list impressed you the most? Share your thoughts right down in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on our upcoming videos. See you next time.
When it comes to loading up on calcium to build a bulletproof skeletal system, the modern food industry has completely programmed our brains to immediately think of a tall glass of cow's milk. However, human physiology and biological reality tell a completely different story. In the natural world, some of the most original, purest, and highly bioavailable sources of calcium are actively synthesized within the cellular walls of plants. Instead of relying on hard-to-digest inorganic calcium supplement pills, you can physically grow a biological mineral mine right on your patio or balcony. Today, we are counting down 15 container-friendly vegetables and herbs that possess a staggering reserve of raw calcium, backed by the exact molecular mechanisms that make them vastly superior to standard dairy products. Let's begin.
Number 15. Summer Savory. Kicking off our countdown at number 15 is a compact culinary powerhouse that proves you don't need a sprawling backyard garden to grow serious bone-building minerals. If you are working with a tight sun-drenched windowsill or a small apartment balcony, Summer Savory is your ultimate calcium factory. Growing in a dense bushy form, this plant boasts an astounding 2,100 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams in its dried form. While a daily culinary serving is small, adding its fresh leaves, which carry about 213 milligrams per 100 grams, provides an excellent supplemental mineral boost disguised as a common seasoning. It completely redefines what a container herb can do for your skeletal health. To set this incredible herb up for success, you will need a 6 to 8 inch terracotta clay pot. Terracotta is mandatory here because it actively wicks away excess moisture, preventing root rot. The soil composition must be heavily amended with coarse sand and perlite to flawlessly mimic the arid rocky environment of the Mediterranean coast where this plant naturally thrives. When sowing, simply scatter the seeds directly onto the surface of moist soil and do not bury them. They require direct sunlight to trigger germination. In just 60 to 70 days, it reaches full maturity. By using micro-shears to cut the tender top stems, you encourage the plant to vigorously branch out into a thicker, highly productive canopy. In the kitchen, it offers a robust, peppery flavor profile that falls perfectly between thyme and marjoram, making it the ultimate seasoning when slow braised with baked beans, roasted root vegetables, or used as a savory stuffing for poultry. According to botanical science, soft-stemmed herbs like savory continuously pump calcium from the potting soil to form calcium pectate, a biological cement that fortifies their cell walls, helping the plant thrive and retain moisture under the intense UV rays of the summer sun. Interestingly enough, in Germany, this plant is famously nicknamed Bohnenkraut, or bean herb. For centuries, German chefs have traditionally cooked it alongside heavy bean dishes. While it doesn't chemically break down complex sugars, its rich essential oils, specifically carvacrol and thymol, act as powerful natural antispasmodics. These compounds soothe the digestive tract and relax intestinal muscles, smoothly and effectively preventing the uncomfortable bloating associated with eating beans. Number 14. Episodal. At number 14, we have a rugged, highly vigorous herb that effortlessly transforms a basic plastic pot into a high-yield mineral dispensary. Epazote is the undisputed soul of traditional Latin American cuisine, but beyond its bold flavor, it is a botanical calcium heavyweight. Offering roughly 275 milligrams of pure calcium per 100 grams of fresh leaves, this wild plant mathematically packs more than double the amount of calcium found in a standard half-cup serving of plain yogurt. It thrives in tight container spaces and actively uses the intense summer heat to pump heavy minerals directly into its jagged green foliage. You will need a heavy, deep 10-inch plastic pot for this vigorous grower. Unlike highly demanding garden vegetables, epazote thrives in neglect, strongly preferring poor, rocky, and relatively dry potting soil. To plant it, lightly scatter the tiny seeds across the surface and cover them with a whisper-thin layer of dirt. Place the container in the hottest, sunniest spot on your patio to simulate its native environment. It grows at a remarkable speed, usually ready for its first harvest in just 45 to 50 days. You simply pluck the vibrant green outer leaves whenever you need them, allowing the inner core to continue pushing out new foliage. It is an irreplaceable ingredient when seasoning traditional Mexican black beans, authentic tortilla soup, and heavily spiced meat stews, bringing a flavor that blends mint, citrus, and a sharp mustard-like bite. According to advanced botanical research published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology, epizode puts its massive calcium reserve to work building its natural defenses. The plant utilizes calcium ions to fortify microscopic glandular hairs that cover its jagged leaves. These calcium-reinforced guard towers store a potent natural chemical called ascaridole, effectively repelling leaf-chewing caterpillars. Thousands of years ago, ancient Mayans crushed epizode to create a powerful tonic to expel intestinal parasites. However, this biological defense is so potent that pure ascaridole actually possesses mild toxicity, proving this rugged herb commands absolute respect in both the wild and the kitchen. Number 13. Turnip greens. Coming in at number 13 is a plant that completely exposes one of the biggest nutritional mistakes modern gardeners make. Most people enthusiastically harvest the swollen bottom root of the turnip, while carelessly throwing away the leafy green tops. However, if you are growing these in a patio container, the leafy tops are the true, undisputed mineral treasure. A single cooked cup of turnip greens delivers nearly 200 milligrams of pure calcium straight into your body, fulfilling 20% of a human's daily requirement in one sitting. By dedicating a single grow bag to these greens, you are cultivating an abundant, leafy calcium mine right outside your back door. Because of their impressive vegetative growth, you must use a substantial 10-gallon fabric grow bag with a minimum depth of 12 inches. The soil must be heavily amended with rich, aged organic compost to provide the ample amount of nitrogen required to support a large leaf canopy. Sow the seeds exactly half an inch deep, and once they sprout, decisively thin them out to ensure each remaining plant has plenty of physical airflow. You can harvest tender, sweet baby greens in just 40 days, or wait 60 days for large, fully mature leaves, utilizing the cut-and-come-again method by taking only the oldest, outermost foliage. They are absolutely spectacular when roughly chopped and quickly sautéed with fresh garlic and olive oil, or slow braised for hours with heavy smoked meats in classic Southern American fashion. Detailed agricultural reports from institutions like Purdue University explain exactly why these leaves pull so much calcium from your potting soil. The rapid vegetative growth rate of turnip greens requires a constant supply of calcium to structurally reinforce the thick veins of the leaf. This calcium-infused skeletal system gives the leaves the mechanical rigidity needed to stand upright and capture intense solar radiation before the plant eventually directs its energy downward into the root. As a fascinating historical footnote, long before the New World pumpkin was ever discovered, the original jack-o'-lanterns used during the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain in Europe were carved entirely out of large, hollowed-out root turnips. Number 12. Mustard greens. Delivering a fierce, sinus-clearing, peppery punch, mustard greens take the number 12 spot by functioning as a biological speed machine for your container garden. If you want a fast-growing, heavy-hitting mineral source, this plant vigorously flourishes with lush growth, especially when the cool autumn air arrives. Every 100 grams of tightly packed fresh mustard greens holds about 115 milligrams of calcium, and that number jumps to an incredible 165 milligrams when wilted and cooked down. Growing just one large pot of these greens is equivalent to building a high-yield biological dairy farm directly on your balcony. An 8-gallon plastic container is the perfect home for these spicy greens. Because the roots of the mustard plant spread out very shallowly, the potting soil must be incredibly loamy and highly moisture retentive. Direct sow the seeds right as the blazing summer weather begins to break and cool down. The seeds possess an explosive germination rate, often breaking the surface of the soil in a mere 3 to 5 days. You must keep the container's soil consistently deeply moist to prevent the leaves from developing an overly harsh, bitter taste, and you can begin snapping off the outer leaves in just 30 to 45 days. The highly spicy baby leaves are perfect for punchy summer salads, while the mature leaves are traditionally utilized for pickling or fiery hot stir-fries with crushed ginger. The American Journal of Clinical Nutrition details the brilliant reason this plant hoards calcium. The plant actively uses calcium to structurally armor its cellular walls against microscopic ice crystals, while signaling the release of its natural biological antifreeze to survive autumn frosts. Furthermore, this calcium is only very loosely bound to the plant's internal pectin layer. The second these leaves enter a human stomach, digestive acids instantly shatter this weak bond, releasing free calcium ions into the bloodstream, with an absorption efficiency that far surpasses inorganic medical supplements. Fun fact, the famous bright yellow condiment that you pump onto a stadium hot dog is actually created by harvesting, drying, and crushing the microscopic seeds of this exact leafy green plant. Number 11. Parsley. At number 11 is a plant that is routinely and tragically tossed to the side of a dinner plate as a useless decorative garnish, when in reality, it is a highly condensed biological mineral powerhouse perfectly suited for small pots. Parsley supplies an immense 138 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams of fresh leaves, possessing a nutritional density that is completely staggering for such a soft, delicate-looking herb. A single 8-inch container dedicated to parsley will provide a relentless, unbroken supply of rich green foliage and bone-building minerals throughout the entire summer. To cultivate this relentless supply, you will need a container that is at least 8 inches deep. The soil must be highly aerated, incredibly loose, and deeply enriched with organic worm castings to support its long lifespan. Parsley seeds are notoriously slow, stubborn germinators, often taking up to 3 full weeks to wake up. The ultimate trick is to physically soak the seeds in warm water overnight before surface sowing them. Position the pot where it receives bright morning sun, but is shielded by partial shade during the blistering afternoon heat. It takes a patient 70 to 90 days to reach full maturity. Always harvest by cutting the outermost, thickest stems completely flush with the soil line to encourage rapid new growth from the crown. It is a culinary masterpiece when finely minced and tossed over fresh pasta, folded into rich garlic butter, or blended heavily with olive oil and vinegar to create an authentic chimichurri sauce for grilled steaks. According to botanical and nutritional science, parsley's massive calcium vault is entirely due to its deep taproot, which mines the bottom of the container for heavy minerals. It forcefully pushes this calcium up into the leaves to structurally reinforce cell walls and trigger microscopic signaling that closes the plant's pores, effectively preventing the delicate foliage from rapidly losing moisture and shriveling when hit by dry, hot winds. Alongside this calcium, parsley contains a massive payload of vitamin K, which activates a specialized protein called osteocalcin that grabs the calcium and bolts it directly into the human bone matrix. In ancient Greece, this powerful herb was deeply sacred, famously woven into elaborate victory wreaths, and placed upon the heads of champion athletes at grueling athletic festivals like the Nemean Games. Number 10. Chia sprouts. Breaking into the top 10 is a botanical marvel that completely eliminates the need for heavy potting soil, yet delivers dynamic biological calcium transformations right on your kitchen counter. Dry chia seeds inherently possess a staggering 630 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams, which is literally 5 times the calcium density of whole cow's milk. By utilizing a simple shallow sprouting tray, you can actively convert that locked mineral vault into a highly bioavailable, easily digestible form of living calcium in just a matter of days. You do not need a traditional pot. Use a simple shallow plastic tray with no drainage holes, lining the absolute bottom with a thin damp paper towel or a 1/4-inch layer of fine cocoa coir. Absolutely zero fertilizer is required. Scatter the dry chia seeds evenly across the damp surface and use a spray bottle to mist them with clean water twice a day. Keep the entire tray in pitch black darkness for the first 48 hours to simulate being buried underground. Then expose them to gentle ambient light. In just 7 to 10 days, when the stems push up 2 tiny bright green cotyledon leaves, take a pair of scissors and give the entire tray a clean haircut right at the base. Sprinkle them raw over fresh avocado toast, toss them into crisp salads, or blend them seamlessly into fruit smoothies for an invisible micronutrient boost. The Institute of Food Technologists published the exact mechanism behind this miracle. Dry chia seeds lock their massive calcium reserves behind a formidable wall of phytic acid, making it exceptionally difficult for human intestines to fully extract. However, the exact moment you add water and initiate the sprouting phase, The seed chemically awakens and releases a powerful enzyme called phytase. This enzyme actively breaks down the phytic acid wall, entirely unlocking the mineral reserves and pumping the highly bioavailable calcium directly into those two tiny green leaves. The word chia literally translates to strength in the ancient Mayan language, and legendary Aztec warriors relied so heavily on this seed that a warrior could reportedly sustain a grueling 24-hour military march while eating nothing but a single tablespoon of chia. Number 9. Oregano. Universally recognized as the undisputed soul of authentic Italian pizza, oregano claims the number 9 spot by functioning as a creeping, densely matting herb that turns shallow pots into heavy mineral reserves. In its fully dried state, oregano is a nutritional heavyweight, hiding a staggering 1,600 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams. While you naturally won't consume 100 grams in a single meal, adding a generous pinch of dried oregano to your dishes acts as a highly concentrated, bone-protecting microdose. It vigorously thrives under severe drought conditions and blinding sunlight on a patio, meaning it is not just a standard flavor enhancer. It is one of the most powerful mineral seasonings you can possibly grow. Choose a wide, shallow pot to accommodate its horizontal spreading habit. The soil is the most critical factor. It must be heavily cut with coarse gravel, perlite, and sharp sand to guarantee instant water drainage, perfectly mimicking the harsh, rocky limestone cliffs of its native Mediterranean habitat. While you can grow it from seed, planting a rooted cutting from a mature mother plant is infinitely faster. Place the container entirely outdoors in the most scorching sunlight available to force the leaves to concentrate their heavy essential oils, and routinely trim the top-growing tips to force the plant to thickly branch out horizontally. It is the non-negotiable foundation for heavily reduced tomato pasta sauces, the perfect dry rub for roasting lamb, and the ultimate aromatic base for a sharp vinaigrette. A detailed report in the Journal of Pharmacy and Pharmacology explains that oregano's massive calcium content is a direct result of millions of years of evolution. Native to solid limestone mountains, the plant's roots are biologically programmed to secrete highly acidic organic compounds that gradually dissolve the solid rock, allowing the roots to suck up the raw calcium. Alongside this mineral load, oregano leaves contain a high concentration of rosmarinic acid, which directly inhibits the activity of osteoclasts, the rogue cells responsible for destroying human bone tissue. Astonishingly, advanced environmental scientists recently discovered that mixing just a small amount of oregano directly into the daily feed of commercial dairy cows completely alters their digestion, drastically reducing the amount of methane gas they burp into the atmosphere. Number 8. Collard greens. Standing tall as the monument of Southern American cuisine, collard greens feature massive, dark, waxy leaves that completely laugh off the searing heat of the summer sun, while functioning as a literal mineral quarry in a large container. A single cooked cup of these impressive leaves holds a staggering 268 milligrams of pure calcium, directly rivaling the calcium content found in a standard glass of whole cow's milk. By dedicating a large patio pot to these southern giants, you are securing an incredibly reliable, heavy-yielding source of structural minerals for your entire family. These plants grow to an impressive size, so you must use a large 15 to 20-gallon heavy container. The potting soil requires a heavy amendment of aged compost and rich worm castings to provide the sheer volume of nitrogen necessary to build its skeletal frame. Start the tiny seeds in a controlled indoor propagation tray, and when the seedlings develop 4 true leaves, carefully transplant them into the giant outdoor container. The plant requires 60 to 75 days to establish, at which point you harvest by using a sharp knife to completely sever the oldest, outermost leaves flush with the main trunk. They are an absolute masterpiece when slow braised for hours in a heavy cast iron Dutch oven with salty smoked meats, or simply blanched quickly in boiling water to serve as a highly nutritious, low-carb wrap alternative. Data from the National Institutes of Health, NIH, indicates that collard greens possess an incredibly rare and highly efficient biological ratio of calcium to phosphorus. The leaves of the collard plant are constantly fighting against gravity and summer winds. To prevent the canopy from physically snapping, the plant must pump a substantial amount of calcium into the cellular walls to act as rigid steel rebar. This intense structural requirement accidentally produces a flawless biological mineral ratio that the human body desperately requires to successfully synthesize new bone tissue. The cultural and nutritional significance of collard greens is so immensely powerful that the South Carolina State Senate officially voted to pass a specific legislative act explicitly declaring it the official state vegetable. Number 7. Watercress. Coming in at number 7 is a botanical anomaly that requires a brilliant container trick to unlock its massive calcium potential. This incredible semi-aquatic plant thrives perfectly in a completely sealed container with 0 drainage holes, instantly transforming your hot summer balcony into a lush, miniature green swamp. While it contains 120 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams, if you calculate its nutritional density based strictly on caloric intake, watercress actually pumps significantly more calcium into your bloodstream than whole milk, achieving a truly mind-bending biological feat without ever needing a traditional garden bed. To grow it, use a deep plastic container and purposefully seal or plug the drainage holes. Fill it with a heavy, dense potting mix or actual pond mud, and flood it completely until the soil is soaking wet and heavily submerged in water 24 hours a day. While you can scatter seeds directly onto the floating mud, there is a much faster secret. Simply buy a fresh bunch of watercress from the grocery store and push the cut stems directly into the soaking wet mud. They will rapidly push out a network of bright white roots in less than 72 hours, and you can harvest the spicy top shoots in just 30 to 40 days. Possessing a distinct sharp peppery bite, it is absolutely flawless when tossed into a crisp salad with a balsamic vinaigrette reduction, or roughly chopped and dropped into a boiling pot of minced pork soup. In the highly prestigious, mathematically rigorous rankings published by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, regarding powerhouse fruits and the vegetables, watercress sits proudly at the absolute number 1 spot with a flawless score of 100 over 100. The reason it possesses such an overwhelming calcium load is because it acts as a biological mineral accumulator. Its fully submerged aquatic root system acts as a relentless hydraulic filtration plant, constantly pulling heavily mineralized water straight into the plant's vascular system, locking the raw calcium ions permanently into the leaf cells. Because of its incredibly dense nutritional profile and ability to prevent fatigue, ancient Roman military generals issued strict orders forcing their frontline soldiers to consume raw watercress every single day to dramatically boost their physical stamina before marching into combat. Number 6. Arugula. Offering a highly complex, distinct flavor profile heavily reminiscent of toasted nuts and cracked black pepper, arugula takes the number 6 spot as the undisputed champion of shallow window boxes. Packing a highly impressive 160 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams of fresh leaves, this leafy green significantly outperforms its famous cousin, spinach, not just in raw mineral volume, but in the critical metric of biological absorption. It proves that you can harvest elite, highly bioavailable bone-building minerals from a container that is barely 6 inches deep. A shallow plastic or wooden window box is absolutely perfect for arugula's very shallow root system. The soil must be highly porous but heavily amended with peat moss to retain a cool, consistent level of moisture at the surface. Scatter the seeds evenly across the soil and cover them with a tiny dusting of fine dirt. Arugula absolutely explodes with growth during the cooler days of late summer and early autumn. If grown in the blistering July heat, it must be shielded by partial shade, or the leaves will instantly turn sharply bitter. It operates at lightning speed, fully ready for harvest in just 30 to 40 days by simply cutting the canopy down to the soil line. It is a culinary masterpiece when eaten completely raw, tossed with shaved Parmesan cheese and rich olive oil, or scattered fresh over the blistering surface of a Neapolitan pizza. The American Journal of Clinical Nutrition published a massive study solving a long-standing biological mystery. While spinach technically contains a high amount of calcium, that mineral is heavily locked away by oxalic acid, making it completely impossible for the human digestive tract to absorb. Arugula operates entirely differently. It pushes massive amounts of calcium into its leaves to structurally fortify its cellular walls and act as the biological trigger that activates glucosinolates, the defensive chemical compounds that give it that spicy, pest-repelling bite. Because arugula produces incredibly low trace amounts of oxalates, nearly all of that massive calcium payload exists in a free, highly bioavailable state. During the Dark Ages in Europe, the cultivation of arugula was reportedly restricted inside the sacred gardens of religious monasteries because the monks firmly believed its spicy flavor was a highly potent aphrodisiac that would corrupt their vows of celibacy. Number 5. Broccoli microgreens. Breaking into our elite top 5 is a plant that requires the absolute least amount of space and soil, yet delivers a hyper-condensed payload of calcium that defies all biological logic. A thin plastic tray, a small handful of seeds, and 10 days of water are all you need to witness this miracle. Just a small 100-gram handful of these tiny greens injects 130 to 150 milligrams of pure, highly bioavailable calcium straight into your system. By utilizing the microgreen method, you are mathematically crushing the nutritional value of a fully grown mature broccoli crown right on your kitchen island. A shallow plastic propagation tray, either with no holes or very tiny drainage slits, is required. Line the absolute bottom of the tray with a highly compressed 1-inch layer of cocoa coir. You must broadcast the seeds densely, creating a wall-to-wall carpet of seeds. Press them firmly into the wet soil, soak them heavily with a spray bottle, and physically cover the tray to plunge them into absolute pitch-black darkness for 3 full days to force synchronized germination. In an incredibly fast 10 to 14 days, take a pair of sharp scissors, grab a thick handful of the tiny stems, and cut them completely flush with the soil line. They add an earthy crunch when heavily packed into a deli sandwich, blended seamlessly into a glowing green morning smoothie, or scattered over a thick slice of fresh avocado toast. A globally groundbreaking nutritional study published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry completely shocked the scientific community when it revealed that broccoli microgreens contain up to 40 times the concentration of vital cellular vitamins and protective antioxidants compared to a fully grown mature broccoli plant. The mother plant physically condenses all the heavy minerals and genetic material required for an entire plant's life cycle into the microscopic seed embryo. During the very first stage of germination, this calcium and mineral concentration spikes to astronomical levels because the plant has not yet developed enough physical mass to dilute the mineral density. Because of their fast growth cycle and impossibly dense nutritional payload, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, is actively cultivating broccoli microgreens on the International Space Station as a primary, highly viable source of fresh food for astronauts on future deep space missions to Mars. Number 4. Rosemary. Possessing the rugged, beautiful architecture of a miniature pine tree, rosemary is a heavily woody, incredibly resilient perennial herb that exhibits a fierce will to survive in hot, dry containers. Packing a massive 317 milligrams of calcium into every 100 grams of its vibrant, needle-like leaves, this once legendary culinary herb operates as a high-powered biological factory, entirely dedicated to synthesizing the minerals required to build a powerful physical structure. A single large terracotta pot of rosemary not only provides year-round flavor, but acts as a permanent, heavy-duty calcium reservoir on your patio. You must use a large, heavy 10-gallon terracotta clay pot for this plant. The potting mix requires an absolute minimum of 40% coarse sand or chunky perlite to guarantee instant water drainage, perfectly mimicking the dry, rocky, unforgiving limestone cliffs of the Mediterranean coast. Always propagate it by planting a green cutting taken from a mature mother plant. Place the container in the most blistering hot, sun-drenched location possible, and water it very sparingly. Once the root system is firmly established, use sharp bypass pruners to snip the pliable, light green tips, completely avoiding cutting into the dark, hard, older woody base of the plant. It is the ultimate aromatic herb for stripping the leaves and boldly seasoning a thick, crusty ribeye steak in a cast-iron skillet or pan-roasting potatoes. Peer-reviewed cellular biology research has published an incredibly profound discovery regarding this plant. Because rosemary is a tough perennial, its roots must continuously draw substantial amounts of raw calcium out of the soil to execute a process called lignification, the biological mechanism of turning its soft green stems into hard wood. Fascinatingly, this heavy calcium payload is accompanied by a massive concentration of carnosic acid. When a human consumes this herb, carnosic acid actively supports cellular health, interacting with physiological pathways that encourage the development of osteoblasts. Thousands of years ago, highly stressed scholars and university students in ancient Greece would meticulously weave thick wreaths of fresh rosemary and wear them directly on their heads during final exams, firmly believing the volatile essential oils would awaken a photographic memory. Number 3. Bok choy. Securing the bronze medal at number 3 is the undisputed queen of Asian culinary greens, which flawlessly adapts to the confined space of a patio container. Bok choy rapidly pushes up a gorgeous architectural display of flawless glowing white stalks, crowned with deeply vibrant dark green leaves. While it delivers an impressive 105 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams, the true magic lies in its mathematically verified biological absorption rate of 53.8%. This astronomical absorption efficiency far exceeds the 32% absorption rate of cow's milk, making this container crop one of the most efficient calcium delivery systems in the natural world. An 8-gallon plastic container with a depth of about 8 inches is absolutely perfect. The soil must be highly moisture retentive and heavily fertilized with a high nitrogen organic compost to sustain the rapid explosive growth of its leafy canopy. Start the seeds indoors, and once the fragile seedlings push out 3 true leaves, carefully transplant them into the main container, spacing them exactly 6 inches apart. They absolutely demand a deep watering every single morning without fail, and will be ready to harvest in a staggering 45 to 50 days by either pulling the whole plant or snapping off the outer stalks. It is a culinary triumph when sliced directly in half and flash fried in a hot wok with crushed garlic and thick oyster sauce, or submerged into a steaming bowl of rich ramen. A landmark nutritional study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition measured the calcium bioavailability of this exact plant. The biological reason bok choy is such an elite calcium delivery system is due to its physical structure. The plant's roots rapidly suck up massive volumes of water-dissolved calcium, specifically to inflate and pressurize its crisp white stalks. Furthermore, because bok choy produces minimal trace amounts of oxalic acid, there is virtually no chemical resistance when consumed. The calcium ions literally flow freely and unobstructed straight through your intestinal walls. The deep cultural reverence for this family of greens in East Asia is so incredibly strong that in the 19th century, elite imperial artisans spent years meticulously carving a flawless single block of precious jade stone into the exact, hyper-realistic shape of a Chinese cabbage, the direct botanical sister of bok choy, which is now a priceless national treasure at the National Palace Museum in Taiwan. Number 2. Genovese basil. Taking the runner-up spot at number 2 is the undisputed king of summer patio parties, which transforms from a delicate seedling into a massive mineral-packed bush when grown in a warm container. Genovese basil boasts an incredibly dense 177 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams in its fresh state, a number that dramatically increases to over 2,100 milligrams when dehydrated. Whether you use it fresh or dried, this herb is essentially a heavy mineral bullet wrapped in a sweet, aromatic disguise, allowing you to harvest massive amounts of a bone-building calcium from a standard 8-inch pot on your balcony. Whether porous ceramic or standard plastic, an 8 to 10-inch container will work flawlessly. The soil requirement is a delicate balance. It must be highly aerated to ensure rapid drainage, yet retains just enough moisture to keep the large leaves from rapidly wilting in the afternoon sun. The seeds require a very warm soil temperature to germinate. The ultimate biological trick to growing a substantial plant is to decisively pinch off and decapitate the top growing tip, the exact moment the central stem pushes out its third set of true leaves, forcing it to violently branch out. You must frequently harvest the leaves in 60 to 70 days, specifically before the plant has a chance to produce flowers and turn bitter. It is the mandatory foundation for fresh pesto, or served raw, layered thickly with sliced heirloom tomatoes and fresh mozzarella cheese to create the greatest caprese salad on earth. The American Botanical Council officially confirms that basil possesses a highly effective biological combination of vitamin K and heavy calcium. On a microscopic level, the massive amount of calcium sucked up by the root system is actively mobilized to structurally reinforce the outer cellular walls of the tiny essential oil glands, trichomes, located on the surface of the leaf. This cellular reinforcement gives these glands the rigid physical architecture required to withstand intense heat. perfectly protecting the plant's highly volatile essential oils from evaporating under destructive ultraviolet radiation. During the Dark Ages in European folklore, a deeply strange belief gripped the farming community. They firmly believed that basil seeds would only successfully germinate if the gardener loudly cursed at the seeds while throwing them into the dirt. Number 1. Lacinato kale. Claiming the ultimate crown at the absolute number 1 spot is a botanical leviathan that completely rewrites the laws of human nutrition. Lacinato kale, universally revered as dinosaur kale. While lesser greens tragically lock their massive mineral payloads behind an impenetrable chemical vault of oxalic acid, this towering dark green giant operates as a wide-open gateway of bioavailability. A single, heavily reduced cup readily delivers over 170 milligrams of free, unbound calcium directly into your bloodstream. Boasting a mathematically staggering absorption efficiency of nearly 50%, it easily dethrones and significantly surpasses the biological absorption rate of whole cow's milk. By cultivating this rugged, heavily blistered survivor in your container garden, you are not just growing a daily vegetable, you are commanding the ultimate biological calcium engine of the natural world. Because it develops a deeply penetrating root system to support its heavy canopy, you absolutely must use a deep, heavy container with a minimum volume of 10 gallons. The potting soil must be exceptionally rich and heavily loaded with premium organic worm castings. However, the true biological secret to unlocking its maximum potential is temperature. This plant thrives in the freezing cold. As autumn approaches, a frost will actually trigger the plant to chemically convert its starches into pure sugars, making the dark, heavily blistered leaves incredibly sweet. You can cleanly snap off the dark blue-green outer leaves in just 60 days, and the central crown will relentlessly push up a new flush of heavy leaves straight through the snow. It is a culinary marvel when the rigid leaves are stripped from the main stalk, vigorously massaged with hot olive oil and coarse sea salt, or baked into shatteringly crisp mineral chips. The Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health explicitly highlights the staggering biological brilliance of this exact plant. To survive sub-freezing temperatures and winter winds without its canopy physically snapping in half, the plant must draw a substantial amount of calcium out of the potting soil to act as a rigid biological steel rebar within its heavily crinkled cell walls. This intense structural requirement accidentally produces a highly concentrated, freely available mineral payload that the human skeleton desperately requires to build bone density. The immense power and resilience of this plant is so historically profound that during the extreme food shortages of World War II in the United Kingdom, the British government launched a massive Dig for Victory campaign, strictly urging citizens to plant kale in every single available backyard and patio pot, because it was one of the only crops indestructible enough to survive a harsh winter and keep the population alive. The botanical pro tip: the absolute truth about calcium mobility. Before we conclude today's botanical journey, there is a fundamental law of plant physiology that you must firmly understand. Calcium is a completely immobile nutrient within the cellular walls of a plant. This scientifically means that a plant possesses virtually no biological ability to cannibalize or transfer calcium from its older, lower leaves to save the young, newly developing shoots or fruits at the top of the canopy. Calcium can only move in one single, highly restricted direction, straight up from the root system, traveling exclusively through the plant's microscopic capillary tubes, driven entirely by the physical upward suction of water transpiration. If you are growing these massive plants in plastic containers on a baking hot summer balcony, and you allow the potting soil to severely dry out, this critical hydraulic system quickly collapses. The flow of water stops, meaning the flow of calcium stops. The plant will immediately suffer a catastrophic calcium deficiency at its highest growing points, resulting in severe tip burn on the leaves or the dreaded blossom end rot on fruiting vegetables. The ultimate professional secret to ensuring your container garden remains a highly productive calcium factory is not constantly crushing up eggshells and dumping them on the dry dirt. The true secret is maintaining an incredibly consistent, unbroken level of deep soil moisture. You must keep the root's hydraulic water pump running smoothly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, effortlessly pushing those heavy minerals all the way up into every single leaf.
If this botanical deep dive completely changed the way you look at your patio plants, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Slow Living Romantic Garden for more cinematic, high-yield container gardening secrets.